difference between us. It's only 11 a.m. where I am, and it is 7 p.m. sometime, 8 p.m.
8, yeah, 5 past 8 now. Yeah. Yeah, it's already getting darker, but it's because it's winter. If it was summer, it would still be light. And yeah, of course, it's great having you on, and is because like a lot of guys in the US, they don't usually do streams this early, so it's very.
I don't. When I was doing my early interviews, I learned pretty quick. Anyone that was overseas, yeah, I mean, I don't care. It didn't really matter. I don't care if it was in Australia or New Zealand or and then you get like the special cases, like when Russell Brand
called up and said, "Oh yeah, can you do the stream?" And I'm going, "Wait a minute, that's like a lunchtime stream in London. That would be like 3 a.m. for me." And then I'm going, you know what? If I say no, you basically say yes whenever you can. You don't blow the window if you get a chance. So no, I say yes to just about everything. And I encourage that of anybody in our community. If you get a chance to do any sort of podcast that isn't a direct troll podcast, say yes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I get a lot of those invites like, "Oh, I'll pay you money and just get on and debate it." Like, you're right. Yeah, okay. Send me the money first and then...
Oh, hell, I'll get people that'll say, I'm brand new into flat earth, really have some serious questions, or, I'm on the fence, no real name. They won't link a podcast. They won't link, any social media things. Like, okay, sure. Every once in a while, like if they'll call my phone, I might respond, maybe. But every once in a while, I'll get those. I love high schools where you can tell the quintessential boys hanging around a single phone with a single guy talking on speaker. It's like, yeah, so I got some questions about flesh. Shut up. and then you can hear the guys laughing in the background. It's like, okay. Yeah.
Right, and then they just keep it to themselves, or they edit it and make it look really stupid.
Right. I've never fallen into that trap, but that's fine. I get you. Again, I've been doing this now for 10 years. The clues are, as of last week, 10 years old.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So your fault.
Yeah. So
you made me do this.
No. I don't mind taking the blame. I've always been an enabler at heart. I am the guy you definitely don't want to hand me, fill in the blank chocolate / drugs / whatever, and say, whatever I do, don't give these to me. And the first time you asked me, it's like, can I have some of that chocolate? It's like, absolutely, you can have some of this chocolate. You want some vodka with that? I'm that guy.
Right.
So yeah, 10 years ago, 2015, February 10th, 2015. Who would have thought 10 years later? In fact, the podcast I'm doing on Tuesday is episode 500 of Strange World. And that's a weekly show. So 500 weeks of Strange World. I have done those. I mean, it's lots happened.
Yeah, tons. I
wouldn't regret a second of it.
Like, what is it now? The 3 presidencies, or is it 4 even? 3?
Oh, since?
Yeah.
Oh no, only 3.
3, right.
So Obama, went Obama, and then the first administration of Trump. And then Biden, and then the second administration.
Yeah, so it is technically 4 if you Trump twice, but just right.
Well, no, because each term is only 4 years. No, we're only.
But you got one year of Obama, and then 4 years Trump.
Not for me though.
No.
No. We're good, but again, a lot has happened. We a lot of ups and downs, and the world's changed a lot in the last 10 years, to be sure. And from 2015 to now, a lot has happened to where we'll talk about it as we go along, but social media has changed, entertainment has changed, politics definitely have changed, the geopolitical landscape is wild. Where we are now. I would have lost money if you would have asked me in 2015, what do you think it's going to be like 10 years? I don't know any analyst from any discipline that got it right.
Right. Well, I think that up until, let's say, half a year ago, you would have probably called it like ever increasing to get shittier and shittier, but now kind of against everybody's expectations, including Trump supporters. Like, it does seem like things are like massively falling, like totally like it's all getting dug out, like the whole Doge thing, and like everything is getting afloat. And I haven't really seen it yet, but I hear that even NASA is getting a treatment from Doge.
Yes and no. Let's get right into it.
All
Doge, the fact that it's even being used as a verb now, kind of like, have you Googled this? It's like, oh man, that thing's getting totally doged. I mean, seriously, I've heard this multiple times now because it's a thing. It bugs me. Little backstory. Anyone knows I have been criticizing Elon Musk ever since he showed up on my radar back in 2017. I have made a number of videos on it. Where he again, the fact that the media has created him as this technocrat, and I listen. I go out and about and I listen and to people's conversations in passing, and the myth of Elon has grown and grown and grown to where. And our administration now has realized it's like, yeah, let's just put him out in front.
Right. Well, he's like a brand, right? And
he is.
They build him up like, oh, he's the genius, and like it's like his brand. And I mean, I think he is probably very talented at certain things, especially like management. But every time he opens his mouth, it doesn't really like. It's like I kind of like him, sort of, but I mean, he doesn't just seem like it. Just seems like he has a speech impediment, really, and that's it.
I mean, the Asperger's. I'm not going to go into his wiki entry or anything, but what I try to remind people is, you know what? Let me back it up because I love using pop culture references. There was a movie that not a lot of people saw with Michael Keaton called The Founder, which was based on the story of Ray Kroc, supposedly the founder of McDonald's. And that was, of course, one of the greatest con jobs ever, which was Ray Kroc didn't found McDonald's. It was founded by the McDonald brothers. Right. That's where the name came from. All he did was he franchised it. But in the process, when he bought them out, he was allowed, he was one of the early guys to do it, which was, oh, hey, by the way, your brand is now my brand. The origin story of McDonald's, I'm going to say whatever I want because I paid you. People don't realize that you can do this legally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember going into every McDonald's store had a Ray Kroc plaque on the wall, him in bronze. And people like, oh, Ray Kroc, he created McDonald's. He absolutely did not. It was the McDonald's brothers. And when he bought them out, one of their stipulations was, we want to keep our original store. I think it was in California. The original McDonald's store. So you know what Ray Kroc did? Again, this goes into ultra competitive. And I will give Elon this. He has got a very competitive nature and he hates competition. And he is ruthless in that aspect, which we'll talk about in a second. But McDonald's, right? That one original store, you know what Ray Kroc did? He built his McDonald's right next to their McDonald's and drove them out of business immediately because he didn't want any trace of them there at all. And why is that relevant? It's relevant because Elon did the same thing to Tesla. I had my own uncle come up to me and say, oh, yeah, because I say, what do you think Elon did? What do you you worship him. What do you think he created Tesla? No, he didn't. He absolutely did not. He bought the majority share of Tesla, kicked out the founders, just like McDonald's, kicked out the founders. They came back and sued him. And he goes, and he settled, right? He settled the lawsuit. But one of the conditions was, fine, I'll settle the lawsuit. Here's a whole bunch of money. By the way, you have to sign this little line right here.
Oh, sneaky bastard.
The line says, I get to change the origin story, which is the, what do they call it? The charter. I get to change the company charter, which you can change the wiki entry on Tesla, which is like, oh, I was there. I was a co-founder. No, you weren't. Well, technically I am. I am now. And as you know, in the history books, he who writes the history, it's only going to, and you think, oh, well, that's a fluke. It's like, no. He's going to do the same thing with Twitter before it's over. I guarantee you in less than a couple of years, you'll have kids that'll be like, oh yeah, he founded X. No, he did not found X. He bought Twitter, kicked out 75% of the employees, drove the stock into the ground. It is 75% lower than when he first came in. No one wants to talk about it. And then, when he changed it to X, and that's it. That it exists because everyone realized, well, what is there a replacement for X? No. So, sorry, one more thing, which is, I just rattle off just a quick little machine gun fire of Elon, which is, tell me, all you worshipers of Elon out there, I don't care if you're red team or not. Look, I'm pre when he became popular, right? He said he was going to take all the tourists to the moon, right? Mm-hmm. From the Deer Moon Project. Look it up, right? It never happened, right? He was going to build a super plane to go to China, from U.S. to China in 2 hours. A passenger plane. Nope, never even started it. Underground bullet train from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Nope, never happened. He was going to save those kids in that cave with his little mini submarine, which he didn't invent. Nope. Oh my God, what else did he do? He was going to save the Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico with his special solar generators. He engineers nothing. He is not an engineer.
I know.
He is a coder from the 90s. You can look him up. All you do, Elon Musk code, in the 90s, and click on images and tell me what you see, right? By the way, not his real hair, got plugs.
Yeah. But I mean, there's photos of that and everything. I mean, hey, do what you have to do, right? He's got the money.
I know, but the fact that no one in the media is allowed to touch it, right? It blows my mind that even MSN, our major blue team media over there won't touch him physically. The Asperger's things and all the other stuff. The point is, he's a software guy, and all he did was he got partnered with a guy named Peter Thiel, who was the creator of PayPal.
Yeah.
And they kicked him out before it even went, but he got in on the initial stock offering of PayPal, made some money, and then where he really nailed it was he was the tip of the spear when he finally got control of Tesla. That's when the whole green initiative thing was rolling here in the United States, and they needed a front man for the green initiative. And Tesla, if you're going to pick an electric car company, that's the one to pick. And the Tesla stock went through the freaking roof. Government contracts. He made gobs of all his money, all his billions and billions of dollars is from Tesla stock. People don't understand right now. Tesla stock, nothing makes sense here anymore. Tesla stock is worth more. I challenge anyone, look it up, more than all the other car companies combined right now. They're less than 5% of them on the road, but they're worth more than ever. Why? More than Toyota, more than General Motors, more than Mercedes, more than all these companies. Why? Because the investors, because of the casino nature of how stocks work, and they just shoveling all this money. Right. And people think he's the richest man in the world. He must be the smartest man in the world. You didn't say that about Bill Gates. You didn't say that about Jeff Bezos. Why are you saying it about him?
Because he's the thing now. He's the carrier of the banner in this part of the story. And I'm fully aware of that, right? And I still like him. But I know, like, all this story stuff and the supposed background, it's technically bullshit. I know it is.
Of course it is.
So, I guess I don't even have to ask you, do you think he's actually going to go to Mars?
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about Mars, and then we'll talk about Doge. But let's talk about Mars. Okay. The fact that Elon tweeted last year, was it even last year or was it the beginning of this year? It could have been the beginning of this year because we're already, whatever, 24 and 2025. He said, and I don't mind, I'm going to say tweeted because I'm not going to ever say X'd, right? It doesn't even sound nearly as good. Everyone's going to say tweeted. That's going to last for a long time until finally some kids, it's like, why do we call it tweeted? It's like, long story for another time, kid. So
when we were younger, it was called Twitter.
By the way, the little trivia for you. Why did they have a bird for Twitter?
Oh God!
It's because the whole birds talking to each other.
I heard it some time ago, but I forgot. What is it?
Okay, here's the trivia though. There's actually a name for that bird, right? And the name for the bird is Larry. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember, Larry Bird was a basketball player, a white basketball player in the United States who was really good in the late 70s and throughout the 80s for the Boston Celtics. The creator of Twitter was a huge Boston Celtics basketball fan. There you go, Larry Bird. Anyway, so Mars, no. I've said this a million times. I'm going to keep saying it a million times until I'm going to drill it into people's heads until they die. There are certain things that you don't get. The future that was promised to us in all the science fiction movies and the cartoon series, The Jetsons, and everything else, you're not getting it because there are certain things we can't do. I'm not trying to be a downer here. There's some reality things when it comes to that. You're not going to have flying cars, because we haven't solved the unified field theory, and you're definitely not going to give that to the public. You're not going to get
well, there is some technological reconfiguration happening, and like what can you do with Mercury and like anti-gravity tech? I mean, it is.
The public can't be allowed to have it. And the reason is
it can be allowed, but I mean, it is. People are figuring out how to get there.
Oh, sure. I mean, could you go to Groom Lake and probably watch some of it? Yeah, probably. But you're never going to see a Volvo using a unified fuel engine. And that is because our civilization has been built on the oil and gas industry. Built on it. The foundation of what we have is built on the oil and gas industry. Mm-hmm. So if all of a sudden you bring in UFO tech, anti-gravity tech, that's simple. You wipe out huge manufacturing sectors, meaning you don't need cars and trains and buses and boats and planes. You need one vehicle at that point with one engine.
Maybe though, because there's always going to be logistics issues, right? If everything becomes flight capable, there will be total chaos. So I think that they could introduce it, but then they'll just leave it to a certain thing, like replace airplanes with that tech. I mean, they've already gotten advanced, and then leave the ground vehicles, leave that to gasoline, right? That's what most people are going to be using, and then you can still make all that money. So
possibly, but from what I've seen, the oil and gas industry does not, especially over here, they do not give an inch to. I mean, look what they did to electric cars for the longest time. The documentary "Who Killed the Electric Car." Where now, I mean, even though, yes, we have electric cars and it drives me insane that there's so many people that bought electric cars. It's like, look, the oil and gas industry, that's the ones that created, the amount of oil and gas that you need to build an electric car. It's not self-sustainable, meaning you're never going to have just electricity building electric cars. We don't have the grid set up for it. There is not enough power that you can generate from hydroelectric or solar or wind or
right, but I think that was never actually the intent. I think that because what I've been hearing is that those electric cars actually cost more energy by coal power plants and fuel-driven. So it's like, no, spend more fuel to use your electric car. So.
And they're tied to the smart cities on top of it, which is the electric cars are good if you live in a city and you're not going to take a road trip anywhere. Electric cars are fine. I do not, by the way, the self-driving aspect, which is completely different. You can put a self-driving thing on any car. You don't need it for just electric cars. I don't know why people tie the two together. Self-driving, by the way, is totally reliant on the condition of the road. Right, because it's just cameras. They look at lines. They're trying to decipher objects in front of you, but really it comes down to the lines of the road. And the reason why it hasn't been embraced by even Mercedes, they were the one of the first companies to do it. They said, you want to use our self-driving feature? Fine. You be in the middle of a 6-lane highway with cars on every side of you, and you're moving slow. Then you can turn it on and start reading a book. We do not recommend it when you're already at 100 kilometers an hour, 120 kilometers an hour to kick that baby in. We do not recommend it because, well, there's flaws. If something goes wrong, it all comes down to the insurance industry, which is, okay, your self-driving car just crashed. Who gets sued? You weren't even in the driver's seat. Of course, that's dumb. but let's say you were, because it has happened before, right? What company pays out? Is it the car company? Is it the software company that built the software? Is it the mechanics of the self-driving system? Who is it? It's an insurance nightmare. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, insurance companies are like, there's huge issues with insurance companies, like really causing a lot of like financial issues in the market. Like, and that's like, it's getting exponentially worse is what I've understood. I'm not really a business guy, but that part I do get. Like with health insurance is like insane now with all the vax damage crap that's happened. Yeah. And
absolutely.
So, I mean, this is a time of massive reform. So if it all just got completely reformed, like wipe it all off and then start new forms can emerge. And then those new changes technologically could become a feasible possibility.
Potentially, yes, but I don't think it's going to happen without some sort of, like you said, a big thing in the background. And initially I thought it was like the 3-4 years that we've been dealing with. I thought it would actually get worse. It didn't. Part of that was, and I'm going to be careful here what I say. Part of it was because the doctors figured out really quick, because everything that was happening, at least the health issues over here in the United States, were blood related.
Yeah.
They were basically prescribing blood thinners and, handing them out like candy.
Yeah,
and it's like blood thinners. And actually that does buy you time. I mean, if your blood has some coagulation issues, then blood thinners is the way to go. They were prescribing blood thinners, still are, to everyone. It's
but I mean, that the problem is not just blood coagulation. There's the other stuff, and that ain't getting thinned out by that.
Right. But the blood thinner buys you.
Yeah. There's so many unpredicted issues that came out of it that just nobody knew about. Right. Except for the people that concocted that crap, and maybe they didn't even know. They were just like wildly experimenting with it on people. Like, roll it out, let's see what happens. That's what I think is a big part of the entire project. It's just a wild experiment. Like, let's see what this does.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry.
We got sidetracked a bit.
I don't want to forget your original question. Mars. Okay, so Mars can't happen. Never going to happen. Well, for multiple reasons. If you're part of our crew, the first thing you would say, well, you can't go to Mars anyway, so you're not going to be going.
Yeah, and it's not a place that actually exists.
Yeah. Mars is just a light on the ceiling. You're not going there. But let's say hypothetically, you could, right? Hypothetically, you could. And again, I love Elon's statements. That's how this whole thing started, where he goes, oh, no, we're going to Mars. The moon is just a distraction. I'm going, what do you mean a distraction? Yeah, the last time you even claimed to have gone was in 1972. Man. And you, and then nobody's gone. Nobody's even attempted it since. Meaning there are five groups with launch capability, supposedly, right now. That being Russia, China, Japan, the Europeans, and India, right. Not including us, and 6 launch-capable countries, and nobody, including the Americans, have even gone, right? So, okay.
China sort of went there, but I mean, it's not getting recognition, but they have this weird footage and don't forget footage. Israel said crash the thing there,
which was interesting. But thank you for bringing up Israel. Israel's not even on the list. Wasn't on when it happened in Wiki of the countries that were launch capable. And yet you watch the same thing I did. It's like, Israel supposedly crashed the thing and they didn't even seem bothered by it. Or, by the way, didn't get by me that all our NASA advisors were in that control room when it was happening. Yeah. And it like crashed. It's like, oh, that's too bad. They sung a song and then they shut the whole thing down and they left. And I was like, oh, come on. Really? You're going to do that for clout? You're going to say, oh, yeah, Israel has a space program. Israel doesn't have a space program.
No, but hold on. To be fair, like, they are probably very big at the faking it. So they probably just showed off like, oh, look, this is the latest software that is like really cheap if you want to fake something like this. I think it was that. It was just an advertisement like, hey, guys, you can do this much cheaper now. You too can fake go into the moon.
And they supposedly did it for like, what, 200 million? I think that was their price tag, 225. You got to understand, you can't even get a super yacht for 200 million. and yet these guys supposedly went to the moon, and then nothing. We've heard nothing since then. The China going to the moon. I haven't forgotten about Mars, but China supposedly landing a probe on the moon. India landing with the worst graphics program I've ever seen. And again, I know it wasn't a real thing, but even the graphic representation, it's like, well, where'd you dig that out of? 1996? It was horrible. And yet, on top of all those, nobody ever shows stars. Artemis.
Yeah.
Embarrassing. Artemis 1 gets within supposedly 50 miles of the moon, and yet there's still no stars.
But I mean, that was great 90s polygon graphics, right?
Yeah.
It's like ugliness. What is this?
The public buys it, and I've heard it from way too many people. And because people's attention span are so short, they don't understand that every American president since Carter, going all the way back to Carter, has said the same thing. It's like, oh, yeah, we're committed to going back to the moon. There's montages of every president saying that. Reagan and Bush and Clinton and the other Bush and Obama going on and on. Oh, yeah, we're committed to going back to the moon. And they never do. Mm-hmm. And when the administration changes, they reset. And it's like, oh, well, we've got a new direction for our space program. In this case, oh, yeah, we're going to Mars. Who's going to Mars? Really? When are you going to Mars? You can't even explain to the layman, by the way, how you're running a rover on Mars millions and millions of miles away. I can drive 20 minutes from here. I will lose cell signal. But yet you can run a Mars rover, two-way communication. Because remember, it's not just one way, it's two-way. There's feedback. 200, or I'd have to look it up, but tens of millions of miles to Mars. No signal degradation. That thing, the battery technology doesn't make sense. The probe that's out there, that battery.
You're talking about the 90s Mars rover project, yes. Right? Yeah. Yes. A lot of people don't even know that's real, that happened. I knew a guy, he used to be my Dungeons and Dragons game master, who actually, and he believed it, programmed the AI for the Mars rover. He was really proud of that. And then I tried to tell him that it might not be real, and he got really upset, so I dropped it.
Right. And again, how are you transmitting the data? You don't have the wattage. One of the big sticklers I throw at the moon program, for example,
package
you can look
loss.
it up. That wonderful, what was it, 7-foot wide dish that they had there, and it's like, yeah, fine, the dish looks fine, but it's running off a car battery, right? And it's whatever, negative something, 100 degrees in shade. The car battery has a range. It's a standard VHF transmitter. It has a range of maybe 50 miles. And that's Morse code. And yet that dish is pumping out 10 frames of color video a second.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, the video transfer, that color, was kind of tricky.
Color video a second. Remember, in 1969, most of America didn't have a color television set yet. And yet this thing's pumping out 10 frames of color video a second and perfect two-way communication between you and the Earth. And by the way, how are you lining it up exactly? Because you're even 1/100 of a degree off.
Yeah.
And how are you punching through the Van Allen belts?
Yeah, but the 60s or 70s moon landing is just complete flop. And I think that this is my suspicion. If Doge is actually going to go after NASA, they might be using it to basically declassify that the moon landing was fake.
Okay. All right.
But hold on. The thing is, logistically, if Mars was real, if all that was real, it's probably not even possible. And that's probably one of the points you were trying to make, right?
Yeah. It is not possible because it's a one-way trip.
Right.
You would have to coast most of the way, even again, assuming, I'm not saying it's real. If it was real, you still can't pull it off, which is why they never attempted it with a manned person. They've attempted it more in the movies with The Martian and Red Planet and other movies along those lines. We've all seen them, which fills in subconscious gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Mars, or what is it? With Matt Damon, that's a great movie. It's really inspiring. Even when I knew it's fake and it could never be, it's this is what it should be, right? This is awesome.
The Matt Damon movie and Red Planet, not that far off either. They're both really good depictions of, what could be on Mars. One's more science fiction based, the other is more realism.
Adventure. It's a space adventure.
Yeah, space adventure. And yet how would you get they just gloss it over. There's things in Hollywood you get away with, plot points you get away with. One of which is that once you got to Mars, what fuel are you using to get back to Earth? How are you escaping Mars gravity to get back to Earth? Even the moon, it's like, well, it's 1/6 Earth's gravity. It's like, how did you know that? Without going there in the first place. And two, because you don't know the makeup of the moon. And second, really, that little burst, I mean, you saw the 70s stuff. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we got away with it because in the late 60s, early 70s, America could do no wrong, and the public was even more gullible than they are now. We were long way from the internet, so nobody could compare notes. And the only people that thought it was fake, funny enough, were the guys that went to the UFO conferences. I know this because they would set up tables at the UFO conferences and said, look, there's something wrong with the moon, and of course they blame it. It's like, they would say things like they're hiding something on the moon, like aliens or space cities or whatever. I mean, Richard Hoagland built his entire career on him saying there's 1 million people living on the moon and there's a couple 100,000 people living on Mars.
Right, secret moon bases. And I mean,
secret moon bases,
I argued this even. I mean, that's why I got secret space program and such like as hashtags in my title, because it's before I really figured out like what the realm cannot be, how it has to be enclosed for everything to work, that there's nowhere to go up there at least. Like before that I was thinking, yeah, but what if they just faked the moon landing because they just couldn't actually share what was there? So they did a studio production while they really did send other people that we don't even know to the moon. They found all these glass tubes and all that stuff, and like they're just keeping that completely secret and gave us the fake moon landing, and then maybe one day, we'll hear about it.
Sure. And I agree with the concept of the secret space program because, how many different movies could I use? But in this case, you would never, the first moon mission, if you could actually go to the moon, would not be public. That's the difference. That is
exactly.
Media 101, which is you never do it live. You never, ever do whatever you think you're going to do live, Jaren, that stuff. You never do it live, which means the first moon missions, if it was actually real, would be absolutely military. They'd be classified to find out if it was
top secret.
Yeah, top secret, because if you tried to do it live, and here's the reason why, the simple reason why, you don't want anyone dying on the moon publicly, because once that happens, the moon then becomes a giant headstone that no one can avoid, and it's a reminder all the time.
Tombstone of failure.
You'd have a freaking world holiday, and people would be like, you can imagine, like every bar, it's like, toast to the moon at night. It's like those poor, brave souls.
Right.
If the moon become this sad thing, if anyone died,
a tombstone.
It would
in the sky.
So you never ever do it. And then once you got into it on a regular basis, then you would do it publicly. If that was the case, you would never do it live.
Right. Once it's safe, and then you can try it out. And right. Yeah, that's a very good point. I never even reasoned out like that. But
marketing, right? Which is branding. You don't turn the moon into something that is bad. The flip side of that is you also want to make sure you control the aspects of the moon. People say, why did the military get involved, and why has it only been the military? I go, because you have to stop the public companies who have the gobs and gobs of liquid cash as well from doing their own missions, from finding out stuff. It's like the reason why you militarize the moon missions and make sure nobody else does it for the longest time ever is you don't want big corporate giants teaming up. Like you don't want General Dynamics or Lockheed Martin or Boeing teaming up with, I don't know, Frito-Lay or Coca-Cola, or then later, like Google, who did, try to work out their own space program. They don't do jack.
Yeah.
Or Amazon or any of those other guys. Because once they do that, then it's unregulated, and then all of a sudden they're crashing rockets, or their rockets aren't going anywhere, and it's like, why are our rockets going anywhere? The NASA seemed to be just fine. It's like, I wonder what that is. So, sorry, real quick. So, short version, no one's going to Mars, one, because you can't go anyway. But even if you could, it's a one-way trip. Nobody's doing that. You're not. Whoever gets there, again, it's a suicide mission. Whatever astronaut lives, Matt Damon doesn't come back from that. right? There's nothing for him to use to come back with. It doesn't work. You'd have to have...
No, but hold on. That's not entirely fair because they generated the fuel on that place. Like they had that big exit rocket and they fueled it with what was in the soil there. They had like this whole thing worked out.
Yes. In the movie, you're absolutely right. That they did have the fuel to come back.
Right. And hold on. It's been officially established there's water on Mars. They said it. Like whether it's true, like of course it's all fake. But if water is on Mars, then technically you could harvest that and then create hydrogen fuel out of it.
If you had a one-man show, if Matt Damon would have to be, again, you let things go when it comes to movies, which I'll do the robot thing next for you really quick. But when it comes to movies, you have to gloss over the fact that Matt Damon would have to have multiple PhDs in all sorts of stuff. And he'd have to have the tools to do it, to create the fuel, right? And make sure the fuel worked absolutely flawlessly in the rig, because remember, you're manufacturing fuel on the fly on a foreign planet with a limited amount of tools, no giant lab to think of, and it's only you. How much time in a day do you have to, and they didn't address, how the oxygen thing, how he never he was worried about food but not about oxygen. It's like, okay,
yeah, but there is sort of a bit of oxygen there, it's like it's not there, it's there. It's like, oh, it's climate change, man. Things change on Mars too.
For the plot yes, they gloss over it. The one I try to remind people is, I go, every robot movie that's ever been used, I don't care if it's iRobot or especially the Terminator franchise, two things there. One, Skynet, they never actually talk about how Skynet became self-aware. It's like nobody, and that's one of those things I harp on.
But that's just the myth. That's the myth of AI, right? The singularity. It just happens, just like, apes, we suddenly just became conscious. And so, the computer, has so much capacity. It just became conscious. It's the same myth as evolution. They just...
Absolutely.
Transplanted it onto the whole transhumanist electronics.
They threw... I lost sleep because the AI term, AI, had been thrown out there so much, and people equated it with, machines that can think for themselves. It's like, no. Even in the movies, there's only three things that ever have tried to, gotten machines to think for themselves. One, lightning struck the circuit board. Radioactive goo was spilled on the circuit board, or whatever was around, right? It could have been a frozen drink for all I know. And, or a ghost or alien entity possessed the circuit board. It's only one of those three things ever, or you just don't talk about it at all, like Skynet. Skynet drives me nuts. It's like, Skynet became self-aware on blah, 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 blah.
Well, the part of the franchise, and there's so many follow-up movies that really do stay like that. They keep it. It's like, nobody really figured out how it happened. It's like, that's why they then can't change it even through time travel. It's like, that's a pretty good myth they created with it. It's very effective for a movie.
You're right. And again, the general public, I love good writing, but I hate bad writing. And with Skynet, it took me years to understand. It's like, wait, you guys ever going to address this? Nope, we're not going to. Skynet just happened. And they weren't the first. Skynet borrowed from a wonderful movie from years before called Colossus, the Forbin Project. Look that up if you get a chance. That was one of the early versions of Skynet, where the U.S. military created a big, giant supercomputer and then just decided one day, you know what? It's so good at running things, we're just going to let it run everything. We're going to tie it in and we're going to lock it down.
From what year is that movie?
The Colossus Forbin Project. I think it's from 70. 1 second.
Okay.
I'll find it in two minutes. Colossus, the Forbin, 1970.
Oh, wow. That's early.
That is early.
There's another movie. I don't know exactly when that came out, but that always stood by me. There's another one. It's a bit darker called Demon Seed. You might have heard of it. Yes. It does it too. And it's like, that movie's freaking spectacular. It's creepy and gross, but it's also spectacular because it like shows like this unexpected things that it just like self recreates and stuff. And it's like, we just let it run a house, and then it's going completely like evolving ape shit and just taking control and all that. I'm like, what?
I enjoy the fact that when you do enough creative writing, you can write this stuff, and people don't even really want to know the details because the details are too nerdy.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why, real quick, guys, AI self-aware machines won't happen is because we don't know how to do it. We don't even have a starting point.
Well, to be fair, yes, but the only way it could do it, what it can end up doing, is being programmed well enough that it can fool people into believing that it is. And that's the only thing it will ever be able to do.
That's the smartest thing I have heard in a while. And you're absolutely right. And you don't even know the backstory behind it, and you got it right the first time. And here's the story behind that. The grandfather of computers, there's a wonderful movie called The Imitation Game with, who is Doctor Strange? Who is the actor in Doctor Strange? I'm pulling a blank right now. One second. Doctor Strange. I'm embarrassed because I know who played Doctor
I don't know any actor names.
Oh, sure you do. Benedict Cumberbatch, British actor.
Right.
So it was based on the grandfather of computers. His name was Alan Turing, Turing.
Yeah, the Turing test.
There you go.
I know that one. Yeah.
Before it was called the Turing test, before he died, right? It was called the Imitation Game. And he was he was the guy, and you're saying the grandfather of the computers, never heard of him. I thought it was like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. It's like no. It was done in the 40s during World War II, and basically the British figured out a way.
Switch machines.
To
the tapes.
To figure out the German Enigma machine, which was all mechanical. They had to build the first computer to defeat the Enigma machine, the Enigma typewriter, and even then they were lucky. They were very, very lucky. But what they did after the war was over, again, very British of them, oh no, we're not going to give this to the public. We're going to tear the whole thing apart, mark it classified, and no one's ever going to see it until the 80s. And then we're finally going to tell the story. It's like, okay. And the guy that did it, he was classified as well, and then he died not that long later. So he came up, once he was building this machine, he immediately got what you just got, which was, wait a minute. If we keep going the route we're going, computers will be able to fool people into thinking they're alive. And how you're going to do it. Now, what I'm saying is you can't create a computer that's self-aware. We don't know how to do that.
We don't even know what self-awareness is.
Exactly.
We can barely describe it. we just do it. That's it.
You and I are absolutely on the same page here, which is in order to do that, you have to define yourself first. You have to say, why am I alive? In fact, those
are just like identities that flow forth from it. Right. It in itself, we don't know. We have no words to literally describe it as an isolated thing. Only the things that come out of it.
Right.
That's all.
If you had to prove in a court of law, it's like, how can you prove that you're alive, that you're self-aware right now? And you can use the cliche stuff. Well, I think, therefore I am, or I can question this. Like questions like, yeah, that could be programmed.
Yeah,
that could easily be programmed. So he thought, okay, the closest we're ever going to get is an imitation of us. Like you were saying, if you had the ability if you had the time to program all the responses, you could create an autocomplete. That's really also
right. But in a way, like even these modern AI image video generators, that's kind of what they do. They take vast databases of just video material of people being natural, and then they average it out and basically puppet memories of that imagery and then polygonize it, and then that's what comes out of it, and it looks kind of natural. It's getting better all the time.
Yeah, some of it's beautiful, and the morphine stuff is really eerie because it's
at first with this weird finger shit, but I mean that's phasing out. So it's like an initial weird thing.
Yeah, they're not perfect with it yet, mostly because they're especially with the human body, because the human body, is mostly water. And so it even though we have a skeleton structure to us, you're talking about, a water tissue thing, and the AI has a problem with it. Anyway, so Alan Turing eventually came up with and there is no standard test for this, but they now call it the Turing test, which is like, okay, what questions could you come up with to defeat a machine? And,
does anybody actually know what it is? Because I know the name of it, and there's like in movies, nobody's actually like writing it down in front of you. It's like, what is it actually? What is the test?
If you had, well, we first addressed it. The first movies to address it would have been Blade Runner, the first Blade Runner movie with Harrison Ford.
Right,
which was,
that came the closest, yeah.
You know, how many questions does it take for you to figure out if it's a robot or not? It's like, well, you know, upwards of like 100 questions, but with Sean Young's character, the advanced ones, sometimes 200 questions. Like, oh, that's a bunch of crap. There are all sorts of very condensed questions. I came up with like 5. I won't go over them right now. But you can ask questions. That there was another movie with Toby Stevens called The Machine, which was a British version of how you pronounce that? Deus Mechana or whatever it was. You know, anyway, where he would get candidates that had software behind a blank wall, and they would ask him. He would ask it questions, not knowing who was human and who wasn't, to see what you could figure out. So the short version is that we do not have the closest we can come is an imitation. We've all fallen for it, you know, every once in a while with like an online chat support help box where it's like, I'm here, I'm Lisa, I'm here to help you. What questions do you have? It's like, hey Lisa, blah 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 blah, and the responses they have, like the first 3 or 4, be like, oh yeah, those sound like pretty natural questions. But then you start asking, it's like, oh okay, I'm talking to a freaking chatbot. You know, and then that's getting piped into a database, and then eventually you might be able to get somebody real. But the hype, the money that is getting thrown into AI software, you know, with the promise that it's like, oh, it's going to be self-aware. It's not. I mean, granted, the voice software, I will say this, the voice software naturalization programs have gotten a lot better.
Right. I mean, well, it is getting to that point where it will basically realize the Star Trek dream of the universal translator. Like, it is becoming that. It is really doing that.
It is. And you can every month you can fool more and more people into and I'm sure you've seen it, I've seen it, where it looks like there are certain groups and politicians that have put stuff on screen with facial morphine software, whatever it is, and the auto, you know, the voice generating stuff. And for them, I mean, yes, I'm sure there's lots of people at home going, that seems a little odd, but they don't question it to the point that we question it. It was like, oh, okay, that doesn't look, you know, that looks kind of like a
robotic voiceover things. People have been using that in videos, even on YouTube, all over the place for over a decade. It's always been very robotic, and I mean, it might be getting better, but I mean, I've never bumped into any AI generated thing where I did not just immediately, within like 2 seconds, like on an intuition, I can't even describe how I feel it. Just know, like, this is not actually a person. Like, I can just feel it.
No, I absolutely agree with you. So anyway, sorry, some of the future things.
Sidetracking.
The self-aware computers, yeah, the Star Trek. God bless Star Trek, but man, there was a comic strip that parodied it. It was called the SS Utopia, which was pretty much what Star Trek is. It's this happy, as much as people like Star Trek, you got to realize there's a lot of stuff happening in Star Trek that human nature just wouldn't allow to happen.
Well, there is the globalist dream in there before it just got really devilish and dark. And now that I'm watching Star Trek back, because I have watched all of the series, I'm a real big fan. Yeah. But I'm seeing it more and more like, wow, they are actually like liberal, but liberals that think it works. It's so unfortunate that it can't actually work. I'm so sorry, guys. I know you really want it. It can't do it.
It's definitely a blue team show. We call them blue team over here. Democrats are blue team and Republicans are red team. Yeah, it is a liberal show, to be sure. Last thing, let me tie this to the batteries, which goes into the whole electric car thing. Electric cars are a nice idea. You know, if you feel better driving an electric car and skipping the gas pump and plugging it in your house, hey, good for you. Fantastic. Try driving 800 miles, by the way, and not looking at your map constantly to see where you're going to be recharging. Because it's not like, the gas-powered cars, the greatest thing about them is that you can just take off on a road trip and there is a gas station everywhere. And our highway system over here is really good about saying no more gas for like 120 miles, in this stretch of road, especially when you're out in the West. But you never have to worry about it's just an afterthought. It's like, oh no, there'll be a gas station eventually. In fact, there's going to be a whole bunch of them, right? With electric cars, you have to plan that trip extremely carefully. Yeah. And you better hope, in fact, not only do you have to know there's a charging station, that charging station better be open.
Oh, but there's a cheat out of it. I mean, I've seen the videos and people are like, oh, are you crazy? But I mean, it's not that complicated. You know how you fix it?
What?
Gasoline-powered electric generator. People do it. It works.
Yes. Or I'm sorry, one more thing, which is, the part that bugged me about Teslas and the others, and I didn't understand why the change was made. With Priuses, I understood them. I didn't think they were attractive cars at all, but I understood the concept, which was batteries with a little gas engine in case you run out of batteries and you don't have a gas station you go to. You fire up your little gas engine, it goes on automatically, right. And then you get to your gas station and then you figure out what you're going to do.
Right. Well, technically that's like hybrids. I mean, those have been around for ages.
Hybrids have been around for a long time. So why did we go all electric? Why go full electric when you could just stay with the hybrids? I don't know what the draw was other than going green. Okay, real quick.
Well, that is it. It's just like they try to force change it. Like, this has all got to go. We got to go exclusively. It's not pragmatic. It's stupid. But that was why they probably did it.
It's dumb, swapping out, spending because the batteries are not covered under warranty, obviously.
And they're super dangerous. Gasoline powers don't blow up, unlike the movies. Electric cars do.
Are in a deep mud puddle. I could leave it there for weeks, months. Nothing's going to happen to it. I park a Tesla in a mud puddle that's not even 6 inches deep. You have to worry about, all of a sudden this thing catching fire. And sorry, one more thing about that. Again, the design things just drive me insane, which is when the battery fails, your doors lock.
What?
Right? And
seriously,
there's no handles on the inside of most of these Teslas. Like, why do you have a car door where you don't have the thing that's been there for 100 and something years, a little door handle switch, which hopefully they'll make the design changes. There was a group of people that died recently because they couldn't get out of the freaking car.
Dude, I didn't even know that. That is just nutty.
It's freaking nutty. Anyway, so transfer that over to the other thing. I swear, the last one of the future things you're not going to get anytime soon, which is robots.
Right.
Which is the robot servants and comes down to the most basic thing of all, which is tied to electric cars, and that is the batteries. We do not have a power source that you can put into a robot, a standing freaking robot that will last any amount of time. And even if you do, real quick, even if you do, it's going to weigh a lot. And you haven't thought about this part, which is all it's going to take is one of these robots that's going to weigh, 250, 300 pounds minimum. He's going to tip over on a toddler.
Yeah, splat.
And that's it. It's going to trip on a rug or a cord. Look, I love technology. I've got one of those those eye vacuum cleaners, those little disc things. It goes around here and everything. And I still
floor crawlers.
In front of certain pieces of furniture, it gets stuck under chairs. It gets stuck in that corner. It can't get out, and then it just shuts down. If a standing robot gets stuck, it's tipping over because
and things break. Yeah,
things break. It's going to knock crap off of shelves. The power source we have never solved. And I know this is a movie reference, and I know it drives people nuts. But remember this, which is, it took 3 Terminator movies before they addressed the power issue. And when they addressed it,
nuclear battery.
Up until that point, they didn't say. It was kind of like Skynet. It's like, what's powering the Terminators, right? Forget about the liquid Terminators, which is a whole other thing. It's, what's powering Arnold Schwarzenegger? It's like, oh, it's some battery. It's like, you're going to say us what kind of battery it is?
Fusion.
Nope. And then
micro fusion battery.
It's like, oh, it's a fusion reactor. And it's like,
Bruh.
Okay. And then when one of them ruptured, he threw it out and it had like a small kiloton yield. I mean, it was a very powerful explosive. You know, that completely screws up your whole military aspect of it, because if one blows, you're going to start a chain reaction. You're going to blow up all these other robots around you.
Well, maybe. I'm not even going to get into it.
From you, this thing is going to blow up that guy. I mean, if I'm here.
Yeah, but it's not a nuclear reaction type of explosion. It is fusion. So one doesn't necessarily ignite the other, right? I mean...
Well,
it's overloading. It's like the process is running, and then going out of hand. I mean, one blowing up doesn't automatically make the other explode. It's not a detonation.
I have to correct you, because I happen to know a few things. I know you don't know a lot about my backstory. I know a lot about explosives.
Yeah.
And there's a thing in the movies, by the way, when you throw a grenade in the middle of a whole bunch of grenades, they're all going off.
Yeah, but that's because it's detonating. The shock wave is going to ignite it.
The same thing, I almost guarantee it. I know the movie writers will probably change it, but if you've got the stuff, when they blew up in the Terminator movies, they were monstrous explosions. Monstrous. I mean, considering the thing was only about that big, right? It was an incredibly powerful explosion. The chance of it not rupturing or critically damaging whatever's next to you. Point is that, okay, sorry, let's get back to the original point. The point is, here's why it doesn't work, right? Forget about the military applications. All of a sudden, you're selling a product with one of those, two of those in the chest. The chances of that not being weaponized by, I don't know, any fringe group is zero.
Right. They just hijack a freaking robot and then they send it, boom.
It's like, oh, sweet, we've got a backpack bomb. We can, and I don't know how much they cost. Effective. It's never.
Well, worse than that, the Skynet itself would have utilized it all over the place. Yes. Right? That's the part that is really not addressed. But because I don't think that, I think that Skynet, designed those things after. It wasn't like the U.S. military created. No, it was creating its own factories, and then it made those cells, and it made the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator.
And you just gave me something to think about there, which I hadn't thought about, which was, you're right, Skynet would have used those robots in the field exactly that way. They would have sent one in.
Bye.
It's like, hey, I just walked into your base. It's like, I'm not getting out of here. Click. And they would have done it remotely or maybe done it manually. They would have been part of the prime directive of the robot. Oh, God. Yeah, it would have been over.
Dude, the hum drones that we have now, personal mine drones with freaking battery nukes, everybody's screwed.
Yeah. By the way, thank you for bringing those up. Drones, that is one of the only things. I don't get rattled by a lot of tech. Most of the tech.
Yeah, the drones now in warfare is terrifying.
The drones terrifying. as flying weapons. Forget about attaching, they thought about, it's like, oh, we're going to attach guns to them or, little flamethrowers. It's like, no, all I have to do is throw a whole bunch of Sentex or C4 in it. And that's it. I mean, watching the videos, and we won't go into graphic detail here, but you probably watched some of the same videos. I'm watching some of this going, holy smokes. I mean, what do you even do? If one of these, you see 5 of those things flying overhead, I don't know what you would
Here's
do.
the problem. You don't see them flying over. You hear them, then you're trying to spot them. Oh, there it is. It's gone. Yeah. That's the problem. They're so small and you don't know where they are. It's terrifying from what I've heard. And the crazy thing is they build them so cheap, it's scary, because they're basically just taking a freaking mortar shell or a tank shell and just strapping it to the drone, and that's the thing. That's holy shit, that's way too easy. This is terrifying.
You said it perfectly. It's so easy that why wouldn't you use it? And it's so cost effective. It's like 100, 200. Who cares? It's way cheaper than the manpower, and you can have the same guy. It's like just some guy sitting in the middle of wherever, just flying it like a video game. Okay, that one's done. Switch over. And he can just, one guy can just have just a non-stop conveyor belt.
Well, the problem is they don't even have to remote control them anymore. That's like the old drones, right? The big flight. That's remote. They don't even need it anymore. No, they just set a location and it's just all auto flight.
The ones that spook me, and I've watched them, were the ones where they try to like a foxhole of guys they can't get to. And for what, and they'll, you could see it. It's like, and then,
Yeah, it goes right inside. Just terrifying.
And they've got another drone above using as a spotter. It's like watching the other drone below make its move. It's like, oh, all right, you're gay. No, go left, now.
Yeah,
and you don't have to be pinpoint. It's awful. It's absolutely
awful. Those videos, like the whole Ukraine shit, when all those videos came, that gave me some serious nightmares. It was like, oh my God, please, for the love of God, don't bring that shit at my door, please.
Yeah. Ukraine. God. I'm hoping they want. I understand both sides. No one wants to let that territory go.
Yeah, but it does look like Trump is kind of forcing some kind of peace reconstruction deal out of it, getting together with China and Russia around the table, and even India is now making a deal with them and all. This is like he's like really like just completely rolling everything over. Like we're going to build something entirely new, or at least that's what seems to be done. And they're all very eager to get along with it. So
I will say,
good hopes.
This will kind of tie in with the Doge thing. I will say that this Trump administration
much better than last time.
Is very good at the marketing spin, the brand spin, right out of the gate. Which was I've never seen an administration hit the ground running so hard. Part of it is blood in the water, which is they want blue team to go away, and they may have the ability now to do it. Doge, you can say what you want about Doge being objective. It's like, we're finally going to drain the swamp and all that other rhetoric, that's mostly BS. The first targets of Doge, they've all been blue team based. They're going after it, and they're just using it as a guise of, it's like, we're cleaning out government, waste and over expenditures and what do they call it? The whole pork spending type stuff, all the bloated systems. But they're going after the liberals, the liberal groups.
USAID, man, that thing, dude. And I wanted to ask you, have you seen any chemtrails recently?
No, but I'm in an area that's not prone to them as much because I'm in the northwest corner of the United States, bordering Canada. So
but I mean that shouldn't necessarily matter. But I mean, from what I've heard and from what I've personally seen, is that since USAID has been cut off, it seems like the worldwide chemtrail program has completely discontinued. Like all over the world, in Europe, everywhere. And I haven't seen a single stripe. Since that happened, it's like, oh my God, is it over? 30 years? Is it finally over?
Well, okay. I would take that as, and I did not know that, but I would take that as good news, but cautiously good news. Because of course, as much as I like to say, oh, hey, something changed, or could it be that, well, we're done with that part because whatever we needed to do is now done?
Right. They did a big program and they ran it and they discontinued it or they were done with it. But either way, they stopped. And like, if I'm going to see some new stripes in the sky, I'm going to be a bit more nervous because this is not going to be the standardized thing. More likelihood of any kind of weaponized thing.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's not over yet, right? The risk is still there, but it's been 2/3 of my life I had to watch that crap, and now it's like it stopped, and I'm like, I'm just hearing "Wonderful World" in the back of my mind every day when I wake up and I see the blue sky. It's just
I'm glad, but at the same time, I have never known people in power to not have one program shut down without another one kicking off. The argument,
absolutely,
the argument where we, like for example, the United States did not even have spy planes until one was shot down over Russia in the early '60s. We didn't have spy planes; they didn't exist.
Yeah,
and that like the U-2 spy plane, and then when the SR-71, my favorite part about the SR-71 Blackbird program was it went from inception basically to retirement, and the public knew almost nothing about it, to where they did.
It kind of came out in the Gulf Wars, right? But it was still classified.
Oh yeah, but that was different. But that was way past when they finally retired the program. Then they did a little ceremony. It's like, oh yeah, we're retiring, our spy plane, and the press is like, we have a spy plane? and we were kind of proud of it. And of course, the follow-up question, which I loved, again, the coyness of the military, where they said, so what are you replacing it with? And the Air Force general's like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, sure. You're just not using it anymore.
Right? No, nothing. Of course you are. But we can't tell you. It's like he can't even, that's how, classified system works. So it's just, we can't even tell you there is a replacement program because even that is classified, even the admission of that. So when like the Aurora program came out and the plane that goes so fast that by the time you hear it, by the time somebody looks up and sees the weird smoke, they call it donuts on a rope because it supposedly uses like a pulse detonation engine. By the time you hear it, it's gone. You will never see a picture of this thing in real life because it crosses the sky so fast. So,
right, who knows what the hell they're using right now? They might be using like what we would call UFO tech. I've been suspecting like they have this triangular vehicle, and I've seen like drawings of this stuff.
Sure.
That it's actually out, and that's what it is. It's like this floaty plane that can just like suddenly shoot off. And basically, like, not be affected by sudden momentum and all that. Pretty incredible.
The unified field engine, which I love the concept of, they've talked about it since the 40s. That after the Philadelphia experiment, the Navy or the Army went to Einstein and said, what can you tell us? What can you give you? And the word was, the rumor mill was that he was never going to give up the unified field engine totally to the government because it can be used as a weapon more than anything else. Because think about this. It's not that you can just take a craft like you were talking about and fly in any direction and G-forces don't make a damn bit of difference because the shield itself protects you from those forces. It's that you can use that. It's like, oh yeah, you can take a craft. Well, what else can you do? Think about this, which is you can take, that chunk of mountain right there and you can throw it at a great rate of speed at a city, right?
No
just take
shit.
it, just rip off, take the biggest boulder you can find or just a series of rocks and just start, use it as a giant catapult with almost no limit. Right. And you don't even need artillery. That is your artillery at that point because the kinetic energy would cause all the damage.
Right, so you mean like basically, however they do it, electrostatically lift, decrease the weight, giant boulder, then launch it, it'll have momentum, it gets its weight back, and kabang.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep. And that, that's straight up Star Trek stuff, which is,
Well, that's the idea of like, oh, we're going to drop this pallet from orbit, and the tungsten pallet, and then, orbital nuke without even any rocketry.
They don't talk about the dark stuff, which is you could take, you just hover above whatever world you want, grab a mountain with a tractor beam, move it like a crane, and then just drop it, which is, they touched on it in one of the Avengers movies, but whatever.
They don't want to spoil it. That's just like with the whole Star Wars, right? But what if we just go to light speed directly into the large vehicle? Like, you weren't supposed to do that, you idiots. Right. Now you ruined it.
not to, okay, back to Area 51, because I want to talk about that for a second. But sorry, I have to bring that up, that was the moment, by the way, that I quit an entire franchise, which was Star Wars, which was, the Rian Johnson film, the Last Jedi, where he, forget about the character assassinations and the immense plot holes. No, it was the universe change when all of a sudden you took an average sized ship and you crashed it into the Empire fleet and you destroyed God knows how many ships with a light. You basically used hyperspeed as a weapon, and it's like. You can't
he effectively, with like a basic ship, just destroyed a Super Star Destroyer without pushing buttons.
Right, you cut it in half, and it was like
that thing is completely destroyed.
You've just wrecked the lore. I mean, it's like you have to go back in time now and justify all sorts of other crap. I mean, you don't even build a Death Star. Why would you build a Death Star where you can just crash something into it with a hyperspace?
Oh God, like the Empire using it, you mean? Jesus.
Yeah, you go.
I haven't even thought about that. But I mean, that's not very imperial. Yeah, I mean that would be too far. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
It was the worst. Anyway, sorry. Get back to the Area 51, which was. But anyway, yeah, I quit Star Wars completely after that. I mean, never watched a single thing again. I just dropped all.
I'm just like saying, okay, I'm just declaring this non-canon. Like I don't care. I just watched the prequels are great. They are like when you like look at the new ones, the sequels, it's like, wow, these prequels are absolutely amazing. Like even Jar Jar Binks, I like him now because they are not the sequels.
But I remember going to that movie and taking probably 20 of my friends. We were all computer nerds, and I came out of that theater feeling so betrayed, mostly because, and you won't get this, which is I was a big old American comedy routine guy. And so I watched, Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor and Steve Martin and those like on vinyl back in, listen to them on vinyl. And when Jar Jar Binks was doing his little, my tongue is numb thing, that's a straight out ripoff out of a Bill Cosby sketch from the mid 70s. And I'm going, and I was listening to it verbatim on screen. I was going, George Lucas, you bastard. What the hell? Or what the hell are you doing? I like Cosby too. Not recently, but I like Cosby too. But come on, that's
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Oh yeah. It was bad. Well, I mean, come on. When the internet makes the first thing they did was the fan base did was they released a prequel version and they cut every Jar Jar scene out.
Oh yeah, the Phantom edit. Great edit, by the way. I like that movie. It's like he's still there, but he just doesn't say anything. It's like, oh yeah, Jar Jar, I love you, man. Just shut the hell up, and everything is good.
So Area 51, I want to make a point here because it's always looked to me like that the whole Trump administration is trying to pick a fight, trying to establish dominance in the world. And trying to say, okay, who's willing to challenge us? China, are you willing to do something? Like with Taiwan? No. But or Russia, what's Russia doing? Trying to pick a fight whenever they can. North Korea, nobody wants to touch us. And part of the reason I think that's true is because we have created the myth of America has been elevated to such a degree, kind of like the Elon Musk thing, but with the whole country, that I call it scary America, which is, would you really go after America forget about the movies that we put out that make us seem, that we can do anything we want. Would you really go after us do you want to attack a country that even has an Area 51? Right? You don't know what's there. Are you really going to roll your troops? In fact, even if you did, let's say you attack the East Coast and the West Coast of the United States, who's going to be the lucky group that goes into Groom Lake, to Area 51? You don't know what's going to happen. Really? I mean, what's going to happen? Are big doors going to open in the ground, and what's going to come out? Some giant,
Star Destroyer?
Oh, if you're lucky.
Well, I think that it's like just UFOs, and it's like, oh, our alien buddies. Didn't you know? Haven't you watched X-Files? We allied with the aliens. You're fucked now.
That would be the one place where I would not volunteer to. Yeah, I don't care how many battalions you've got behind you. It's like you roll in there. It's like you don't know what's. I mean, part of you is like, oh man, what do you think it's gonna be? People would be betting. It's like I bet it's Godzilla. I bet it's a whole fleet of flying saucers. You don't know. Your triangle group, like for example, if they're gonna reverse engineer anything anywhere, it's gonna be there, right? Your flying triangle ships. So really, what do they do? What can they do? Do you have any?
Dude, I mean, I can't imagine what they would have built, but I mean, that's like insane. It'll never happen. No. But like they could like have UFO bolting aircraft that's like perfectly stealth and that has that's like robotic, gigantic mother of all bomb explosive that are perfectly stealth and have absolutely no momentum, can just instantaneously fly wherever. You wouldn't even know it's happening, and boom. Like the most crazy things they could do, technically.
The wonderful thing about a unified field engine, which is, basically we're talking about UFO technology, which they don't really maximize but we've had video footage of years, and it's really cool, which is it's not the speed that they can travel, and it's not just the maneuverability. It's both combined. It's like a helicopter on meth. A helicopter can go up and down and, a little bit sideways here. Well, imagine if it could do that at 5,000 miles an hour with no effect on
no momentum whatsoever. Just
what could hit it? What are you going to do? The people keep saying this.
Well, what would even happen if you hit it? Like, would it even have an effect?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody knows.
I don't know. And what do you hit it with? Just a straight up sidewinder? Would the shield? Is it at that point like a Star Trek thing where it just kind of bounces and moves over?
Well, maybe like with the momentum, it might just like feel like it's getting slapped around and it just doesn't do anything. Like you hit it with a giant bullet or whatever or a bomb, and it's just like boom, oi, la la la.
One of the questions when people say, "Oh, do you think there's going to be alien disclosure this year?" Right.
Right.
And it's like, well, not unless you have an agreement with them that talks about the power structure. Meaning, the one of the oldest comments I ever learned when I was looking into UFOs years ago was that you don't control the skies if you don't control the skies. Meaning the United States Air Force, let's call them the top of the heap right now. Yeah, they're very good at some stuff. We got some good stuff, some good toys. But at the same time, full well the triangle craft alone can run circles around us. Literal circles all day long, right? With impunity. Well, do you really want to admit to that? If you admit to that, it's like, oh yeah, we're pretty good, but yeah, we're nothing compared to those guys. Those guys can fly basically any altitude they want, any speed they want. They could just pick us off, very much like, what was the Will Smith UFO movie from years ago? Was that, oh crap, what was it? Armageddon? No, it was, crap.
I Am Legend? No.
No. The Will Smith, hang on. Will Smith UFO movie. It was Independence Day.
Oh, right. 90s.
Yeah, I mean that was a great example of it. I thought they pulled them, they pulled up a little short. It could have been a lot darker. But the fact that the early ships before they lost they got the shields go down because of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Those ships you couldn't touch them. It was like a missile just bounced off of them, and they'd be like,
exactly.
Okay, we're going to come back, and he had to slam one into a canyon wall just to get it down on the ground, and even then it wasn't destroyed. So. Yeah. The point is, you're not going to have UFO disclosure until you have some sort of, until you can say, oh yeah, by the way, these things that are flying around, they belong to that, let's call them the Krulians, but they're also our friends. And then, which is a thing I've thrown about there about NASA. NASA could use this by the way, if you're listening, NASA, and I know you are sometimes, you could use that anytime you wanted, which was you could say, oh, hey, there's another civilization flying around. We're buddies with them, and they're the ones that told us to fake the moon mission and everything about the space program. They told us to do it. You'd be completely off the hook. No one would even question you. Like, well, they told them to. What are they going to do? Say no? And they told us the reason why, and then you could kind of go from there. That's NASA's out. That's their get out of jail free card. And
but only if that's going to fit the story, right? That's every time. Like you're going to introduce some kind of story element, then it has to fit everything, or you run into trouble later. Because to me, it just seems like all this secret tech, the UFO tech. Like, it's very simple to just say, like, look, this is not our stuff. These are our alien allies.
Right.
We don't know. Really trust us, right? What are they going to do? Like, it's not us.
We love taking credit for stuff. America loves taking credit for things. No different than the pharaohs with the pyramids millennia ago.
Or the Freemasons with all the Tartarian buildings.
The what?
The Freemasons with all the Tartarian ancient buildings, right? Yeah. We just built it in 2 years, really.
We wink all the time when it comes to UFOs and say, oh yeah, it's probably not us, right? Do that whole smile thing. It's like, oh, okay, you want people to think that the American government created all the UFOs, except that America hasn't even been around as a country for that long. And the greatest UFO sighting in the United States, which would have been Roswell in the 40s, It's like our tech was crap in the 40s. So don't give me this crap. And then the biggest one before that in the United States was 1899 in Texas. That's like we had locomotives, we had horses. So don't give me, how far back, and the greatest UFO sighting again of all time, which I you look up the wiki entry, which is the 1561 Nuremberg event, which was centuries before the United States was even a country. So don't give me this crap about, I know it's easy to convince the public of certain things, but it's like, don't tell me that all the UFOs in the sky are tied to the Americans. It's no different than all the crop circles are tied to those two drunk British guys from back in the early 90s. And I will say this, that was brilliant, which was a newspaper came out and says, oh, we found these two British guys, and here they are with some ropes and some wood, and they made this absolute crap circle, and yet they created every crop circle in the world right now, including the ones in Russia. What?
Yeah, hilarious. I remember that. But I mean, the United States is like obviously, even on record, not the first guys to experiment with this levitation type techniques. I mean, the Germans, Nazi Germany is like really prominent. The bell, right? And then paperclip happened, and that's even how people think that US got into this type of technology is through confiscating it from the Nazis after they were defeated.
The story, I love the story so much in that that Germany had their own Roswell version in the early 30s, and it landed in soft dirt. It was recovered almost entirely intact. The government got a hold of it. There was no public anything, and they reverse engineered very quickly all sorts of different aspects. And what do you think happened? And again, I reference, if you ever get a chance, they didn't talk about it that much in the television series, The Man in the High Castle, which was a brilliant alternative history series, which was people don't understand what it takes to all of a sudden wake up one day in the late 30s and Germany's saying, you know what? After you've accumulated all this reverse tech, and then, of course,
and immediately try to apply it, right? Just mount a bunch of machine guns in there and just send it in.
Like, how will this help our tank tech? Hey, jet airplanes, is that a thing? It is now, and all this other stuff, to where all of a sudden your tactician's going, you know what? We might be able to take the whole thing. Whole thing what? The whole world. We might be able to do it, right? Imagine the level of confidence you have to be like, what, we're just Germany. Yeah, but we got stuff other people don't. And you take Europe, within a month, 2 months, you just take all of Europe, and it's like, if it wasn't for, the ocean, Britain would have been taken, and Russia was burning. It was bad. It was, but yeah, to your point, where did they get it? People don't understand the things that were invented back then.
Well, and discovered, Germany was, or at least Hitler, on record. I don't trust any of the history that they all tell me about it, right, in the history books. But, it's blatantly obvious Hitler was really, really into the occult and sent people all over the world. Even Steven Spielberg basically admits this in his movies. Like, he went all around the world to what? Dig up ancient tech? Find the Vimanas, do all this research, right? Your point. Thank you for bringing Tartaria tech. Basically,
Indiana Jones, the first movie, was not just a movie. There was a plot line that was going through there, which people missed. Which was when it comes, there's a saying, we all know it, which is it's all's fair in love and war, and Germany knew this more than anybody. It's like the Geneva Convention. What the hell are you talking about? Oh, well, technically, I don't think that even exists.
That came after that.
Yeah, that came after. But
because of that,
all's fair in love and war. Which is, if there was a way to win the war, they were good, and it was even remotely plausible, they were going to find it. The Ark of the Covenant, that was just one of the things they were looking for. If Harry Potter's wand was a thing and they could go after it, it's like, you think you can find Hogwarts? Get on it, right?
Right. Yeah, but they loved to just make that story about finding the religious artifacts in the sphere of destiny, but it's really just about the real tech that they just really don't want you to know about, like Vimanas, like Tartarian I don't know what the hell they all have. I mean, it's still not entirely obvious, but researchers are finding out, like, these guys, these protos, the ones that came before, they had tech that's just like, sure, we can't even really grasp that now. It's and so far.
If you think all by the way, if you, again, this is for the listeners, you know this full well, which is if you think all that determination is like win at all costs, stopped with the Germans. Oh my God, are you kidding? The Americans? I am sure, like, one of the scariest things I would, if I had a wish list, if I was ever taken by a group, right, I would love to see, because I've heard so much about and that's just the public one, the Dulce, D-U-L-C-E, the Dulce base, the underground, the Hall of Nightmares in one of the underground bases in New Mexico, which is, we work on stuff, I am sure of it, we work on stuff that's super scary, and the only reason we don't use it publicly is because we're worried what might happen, how it might get out of control. You've seen the movies, you've seen, the stuff that's out there. We work on stuff which we have a giant red kill button on the right-hand side, and if it gets out of hand, you blow up the base. It's like, this could be the greatest thing ever, but if it goes south, we got to nuke, we got to wipe it all out.
Right, even if just for the risk that it might fall into enemy hands kind of thing, right?
Right. And I mean, we're not just talking like germ warfare or any biologicals.
Yeah,
like
that's all nonsense in my opinion. I don't even think any of that is I think it's just a cover story for eugenics programs and poison, right? I mean, even in Latin, virus just means poison. So that's what I think it literally is, and that's all it is, in my opinion.
There you go. It is, yeah. So anyway,
but that's another subject.
Yeah, we are Americans. We put on this shiny hat. Sorry, the scary America thing, which is we put on this shiny hat. We try to tell the world simultaneously that we're the greatest thing ever. Don't mess with us. We're Superman. But at the same time, we have no dark side. Well, unless you go against us, and then we're going to show you the dark side.
Yeah, exactly.
and by the way, that dark and when I say go against us, that's not like you attack us. Sometimes, the not to get off on a different subject, but don't forget, you guys can look this up whenever you want. Look up any country that's ever gone against the petrodollar, for example. People don't understand what the petrodollar is.
It didn't last very long.
The what?
That didn't last very long. Every country that tried that.
Right. Yeah. If you I look, it's mob. It's organized crime tactics. It's like we went to the oil countries years ago and we said, okay, anyone that buys oil needs to be converted into dollars. Why do you want to do that? Well, because that way people want dollars and we're tied to the oil. It's like, that doesn't seem really fair. Hey, we want to ask some questions about that. Really? What country are you? Because now you're on notice. And if you try to replace every country that has tried to say, oh, hey, we want to pay for oil with gold, for example. Gold. Like, no, we're not having that. We take steps. And it's something, and because of that, the people want to ask, like, why has the dollar been so high for so long? Like, well, there's your reason. Your bigger question is like, why
demand. It's all market, right? Marketing, all just supply and demand. And if you have to use it, well, that means a steady demand. Yeah, it's not going to decrease.
Then we went in debt with other countries, and then that. Then what do? Do you launch a war? I mean, we owe China a crap load of money. And people say, well, why hasn't China gone to war with us? I go, because the first shot, one of those rules of war, which is the first shot fired, like if China bombed a single boat, shot down a single plane of ours, over there next to them, the rule is that any debt you owe that country during the declaration of war, gone.
Yeah, that's right.
$1 trillion bullet. And it's like, but yeah, you don't get any of that money back ever.
Yeah, if you attack the guy that owes you, he's gonna just bolt and it's gone. That's basically it.
He doesn't owe you any more money.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Simple rule. And it's very sneaky. It's like, why China let themselves get into that position? It's like greed. You pay off the right people. You make enough people rich. And
it's
then
just a business deal, basically, all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, I'm really surprised. I'm impressed that Taiwan has still never been taken back. And it's like anyone understands, like Taiwan, it is China. It is China's property. It has been China. It was just a bunch of exiles that China wanted to send them over there because there's a sea. That's why it's called the China Sea. But that's no accident, by the way. Why? Let's get into that really quick, which is because it'll take a while before your history books start reflecting it.
The Gulf of America.
Gulf of America.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah. Hilarious.
That was brilliant in that it's so cheap. It took nothing to do.
Exactly.
Mexico isn't going to fight it at all because they can't. And because the reason why it was Gulf of Mexico in the first place is because our country wasn't even formed when we named it. America wasn't even a thing. When it's like, well, there's Mexico. It's their Gulf. Might as well call it the Gulf of Mexico. We named it in the first place. And so I'm a little surprised it didn't happen a long time ago. But then it took somebody like Trump to come along. It's like, I'm thinking of buying Greenland.
No, but but they did it now because it's like now is the whole, the trade war scuffle. And it's like a domination move. It's basically, hey, I'm going to piss on your back and like you're going to take it. Like Gulf of America, what you going to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. It's all very tactical. I mean, I have a lot of respect, but I mean, these guys, the team, they've been planning this like in a big, big way. They must have been preparing like this massive flow chart on what's going to happen like for years.
No bad ideas. This happens in meetings every once. Let's go, okay, everybody. What do you got? There are no bad ideas. Let's write them all down. And then somebody says, let's annex Canada.
Right.
Well, you know what? At the very least, we'll make it a headline and it'll get all Canadians all riled up. It's saying, I mean, come on. When's the last time?
Yeah, let's make Trudeau shit his pants.
Yeah. When's the last time it's like, hey, we're going to shut down immigration. We're going to rename the Gulf, and to our north, we're going to say we're just put American flags in Canada. It's never going to happen, of course. But the Greenland thing was fascinating.
It's still fascinating to me. It does seem to be kind of a bit on hold, but I was secretly hoping, because I mean, I have space fakery ambitions. And now I want to just, because it's a fascinating conversation. I'm loving this. Thank you so much. But to go back to the whole going to Mars thing, which is now like an hour ago, don't you think that they could just fake it? Like really? Because I mean, of course it's not real. It's not logistically possible. But why would they even have to justify? Why can't they just do it? Just do it fake. Just go. Do it and just say, dude, we got robots we don't even know about. We send them in, they dig in, and they just like with nanobots just build it, right? All fully automated. We tested it in the Nevada desert, nobody knows about it, and they're just like, oh, camera, oh, look, it's ready, it built it. It's not like the military came in on Earth and just built it all there, and then we got the base. Now send in the people, or not even just send in the robots. But I mean, you think that they might actually fake it, or is it just this tiresome, endless postponing game? Because that, if they not do it, like it will like kind of break a bit of like the big balls effect of this whole ordeal. If they don't actually give us something fake, like I don't care. It's like, fake it, dude. Just fucking do something already. Just do something, man.
They can't fake it because of your attitude right there. Because you're waiting for it. People like us and people we know, lots of people that we know,
damn it,
would analyze it to such a. It's the same reason.
Yeah, but I don't even want that. It's just like, just do it. Just fake it. Like I don't care.
It's the same reason why here we are decades later, and the closest they've gotten to coming back to the moon was Artemis, and it was horrible. And but
it's because of the shit CGI. They don't have to do it. That's like NASA just doing it on purpose again.
And you get a great point, which is, can you spend the money and make it somewhat believable to where the general public will buy it? But as anybody knows, and I've talked about it on different things, all it takes is one part of the production to screw up, and the whole thing goes to hell. I love using the Lord of the Rings reference, which is the very first Lord of the Rings. The Fellowship of the Ring, the first movie. It made it all the way to the theater, And there it was, the hobbits are leaving the Shire, and in the corner of the frame, there's a road with a white car driving through it, and nobody caught it, and it made it all the way to the theaters because everyone else was focused on the other stuff, and all of a sudden, was looking up. It's like, where'd my glasses go, right? And they look up, it's like, that shouldn't be there. I need to call someone. And they had to recut the movie to get the car out of frame. You can still find it, on different places online.
Yeah.
So if that happens with a major, and think of the thousands of people that looked at that footage. I mean, the music people and the
Absolutely.
sound, and nobody freaking caught it.
Yeah, but I mean, look, the technology is here, though, right? I mean, there's already, NASA's been using like video overlay, and it kind of looks crappy, and then there's the screen bleeding. But seriously, like, at what point can there just be a automated AI analyzing filter? It's like, oh, there's a bird flying by, and it just, before it even comes through, it covers it up automatically. Like, they could theoretically account for any type of mistake that would happen,
agree.
other than suddenly a plane crashing in the middle of it or something, right? That happens, it's screwed, but
it comes down to who is willing to make. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. Somebody should have pulled the trigger on this and actually made it happen, but everyone's scared to death because every time they think they're close, they realize the technology, the detection technology. The average person out there, all they have to do is send it to their nerd friend, or they say it's like, it takes one guy in the middle of, at 3 a.m. in his underwear, he's staring at the screen going, yeah, it shouldn't be there. It's the same reason why, I'll give you two quick examples. It's the same reason why in the 60s they didn't put any stars on the moon when it came down to Apollo, because they knew how hard it would be. And because
then they'd have to fake it forever, and it's way too much.
Yep.
Way too much.
The same reason why when the Tesla Roadster in space happened,
they
cut that thing off as quickly as possible, and they didn't commit. Patricia Steer, she made this great comment to me. She goes, why isn't the Roadster in space a banner in every Tesla dealership in the country, in the world? Why isn't the Roadster in space? And she goes, and why didn't any other car company even try doing that? Right? Why didn't they just keep taking it up a notch and it turn into like Car Wars, something like that? Never ever happened. And I'm going, it's because they were scared to death. It's the same reason why. I'll give you. Last example on this, because I've used it. Which is, if somebody came to me, I don't care. Let's say a government think tank came to me with a dump truck full of money, a literal dump truck, billions of dollars, right? And this is just personal money. And they said, you have a blank check. We'll do what we did with you with Kubrick. We'll even take it a step up. Are you willing to help us fake the next manned mission to the moon? And I'd give it about 30 seconds worth of thought, and I go, sorry, I can't. There's only so much. It's not that I don't have trust in myself, but the production staff involved, all it takes is one guy to screw up. And remember, we're talking about accidental screw up, not to mention the deliberate screw ups that some people might do. You might have some guy with a crisis of conscience, like all of a sudden, screw something up.
Yeah,
it would worry anybody to where they've just kind of, how it goes. They procrastinated. First it was the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and here we are 50, 60 years later. No one's done it because everyone says the same. It's like, well, maybe next year.
Yeah, but I mean, but you explained it, like the human flaw is kind of a danger in it. But seriously, with the proper AI filter pre-programmed, like, you could do something like that and really kind of safeguard it mostly. And I mean, it could still, something could go wrong, but you could, if it's like a weird digital thing that's just like, oh, this is like a artifact, right? I mean, that can still happen. You could still call artifact. I mean, I think that the actual chances of like really messing it up are technically much lower now, to the point where they might actually do it. And I'm secretly hoping that they will, not because I think that the Earth is a ball, but because I'm like, I just want an adventure, right? I want an adventure for us all, for the ballers and for the flat earthers, for us to figure it out. I mean, they're never going to listen to us anyway, right? Ballers are never going to listen. Doesn't matter how many arguments we got, right? It's going to be real to them no matter what. And to us, it's going to be fake because we just know what we know. But I'd still, like, the whole nothing and the endless promises that never come true, it is tiresome for everyone. It's like it's universally demoralizing on all sides.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's like, just do it. Just go to Devon Island and go do the Mars landing. Then you go to Denmark, right? You corner off Denmark, or not Denmark, sorry, Denmark. I mean Greenland. Denmark, no. Greenland, icy scape. And we go to the next step. We go to Europa, the ice moon on Jupiter, and we go and send a man over there, right? Because it, like Greenland, it's ideal for a Europa landing. They're already military based. There's nobody there. All you have to do is kind of like just corner it off, have some CGI for a Jupiter in the sky, have a standard background thing. And you could do something like that. And it's like, see, we made it to Mars, a desert planet, and we got the ice planet. I mean, dude, epic, right?
I know. And you're right. I hate being bored as well. I wish I like pacing in a story, and the can has been kicked down the road so many times to where I don't even know. When I'm looking at it, whenever any sort of space story comes across my desk, I don't even get hopeful anymore. I was like, yeah, it's never going to happen. I mean,
a meteor. Oh, yeah. Whatever.
Artemis 2, blew up on the pad, or, blew up 60 seconds up, and nobody, the general public, I mean, you've probably used this statement as well. The public is dumb. The people are dumb, and they have the attention span of goldfish, and they don't. There was a girl that I talked to some years ago. And I tried to rattle that off to her. I go, you realize no one's even, forget about gone to the moon. No one's even tried to put boots on the moon since 1972. I go, and so I look at her, and she wasn't from America. I go, so when are we going? When do you think we're going? And she just, like I was talking to a robot. Her glass was glossed over. She goes, soon. And I go, And I go, well, there you go. I go, people have been saying soon for years and years and years. But I mean, and every time I've seen it, it's like, as soon as we get within 18 months or whatever it is, all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, we're rescheduling another 18 months out. I treat it no different from something that's completely forgotten it never even happened where you guys were, which was the hydrogen fuel cell car, for example.
Right.
When the oil and gas companies who didn't want to do electric cars at all thought, you know what we have control over? The gas industry. It's oil and gas, right? They control hydrogen gas. We're going to make cars run off hydrogen gas. And so they spend billions working on this. And the hydrogen fueled car was born, and they did the test program in California.
And we're here in the Netherlands too, and it worked fine. Like we had buses. I think they still run. And I mean, they're working fine. It could be better, but it's like, it works fine.
Little different for buses than it does cars. The biggest problem for cars is the fuel storage system has to be kept warm,
right?
Or at least room temperature. And
if it's too cold, it doesn't work.
If it's too cold, it doesn't work. They never solved it, and they realized it just came down to straight up physics. They're like, that's not how physics works. You can't do it. And it's like, well, can't you?
It's kind of outdated, right? It was like a 90s thing. It was pretty advanced, but now, dude, there's like. Did you know about like the Japanese company? I think it was Toyota, but it could be like a smaller thing that literally have like really small cars that just work on compressed air. And they can run for hours and hours on just compressed air.
Neat. I should look that up.
That's like, I think that's like 10 years old now. And it's like, it was like amazing when I first heard about it. And like, it's just completely like. But the point is that while the hydrogen cars were being developed, they kept telling all the investors, "Oh, we're 5 years out. We're 5 years out. We're 5 years out," and it just kept getting pushed to eventually where. Again, I hate this part is it's different from the storytelling, which is when it comes to the news and stuff like that. It just faded away. It just wasn't a story anymore. It's kind of like when a news anchor gets fired. There's no big announcement on the network because they don't want the brand to be damaged. So all of a sudden you turn on the television, that guy's just not there anymore. And they never talk about it except in other news channels. Right. So the kicking the can down the road with the space program, unfortunately, because the public is so
they gobble up the other stuff. Again, they also talk.
If I may, how I think it is really psychologically is that the people that don't know it's getting faked and all that, they're just like, yeah, it's true, but I mean, it's not happening, so we don't really care. And they're like, oh, yeah, promises, whatever. They're just tired and bored. And the real problem is really with the flat earthers, where it's just like, we're getting irritated because like we want to analyze and prove how it's faked, and it's just not happening. So we're actually more burdened by them not doing it than the general public that just kind of lost all interest. They're like, yeah, of course it's real, but it's not happening, and so I don't care. We're just going to go back to business here on Earth.
We're like a review channel that if we don't get any content to review, we got nothing to work on. So when the space program doesn't do anything, when they don't, it's like they talk about Mars, you never go. They talk about the moon, they don't go.
And it's not interesting to review that. Like, oh, they say something, they're going to go and they're not going. Like, that's not content. That's just boring.
Or like the ISS, which we've ripped apart so many times. And those two, the lady from India and the guy from the States, they've been up there apparently, since last Thanksgiving. No one cares. The general public doesn't care about that. It's not really a story. What I think we're kind of leaning towards is what I call a media singularity, which is after the during the pandemic, we have figured out a way to control the general public. They figured out a way to turn them in so easily now. They've almost got it down to a science to where
but it is a social engineering science.
Yeah,
right? They just know the rhythm of the flow of it.
They can make a talking point within hours, because remember, social media is 24/7 and it's instantaneous. They can make a talking point, and I could walk down to the street, the corner store, and I can guarantee the background people talking in there is like, oh, did you hear about the Doge thing? Oh, hey, did you hear, I heard there was an asteroid shaped like a pumpkin.
Right. Instant automated rumor mill. Instant.
Yeah. And
immediate pop-up everywhere, like, oh, it's there, and immediately like, oh, the new thing, quickly, before everybody knows it.
Yeah. The new thing, which used to take weeks and days, now takes minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just, to why I run into people. Yeah, I mean, granted, there's art circles that fire off headlines to each other, but at least we look into the background of those headlines, whereas most people, just look at the surface value. And
it's real.
It's got to be real. This is what's happening. Again, which is why I've done some short videos recently trying to remind people. It's like, look, no different than the people that are defending the globe, which is the people who defended the globe. It's like, look, I know more about the globe information than you do. I know how fast it's spinning. I know how fast it's going around the sun. I know how fast the solar system is flying in multiple directions. I know, the distances between here and there. You don't know any of these things, so why are you defending it? Multiply by that by anything that comes out nowadays, which is you're right, they defend, the talking point is what it is, but there's no reinforcement behind it. Right. They will just regurgitate the talking point.
Right. Dude, I really got to take a 2-minute break.
Okay.
But I really want to continue the show though, because I'm not done yet, because I'm loving it.
What do you want me to do?
No, whatever you like. You got the mic. Get silly or not. Or I'll be right back. See you soon.
We're live. It's good. So, if you go on my channel, by the way, so there's a couple ways to look me up while he's gone. You can type in Flat Earth Mark into any search engine. You will have some fun there. When you're in there, you can go to YouTube. That's probably the easiest way to find me. And I've got all sorts of videos that have been on just about everything that's tied to the flat earth in every way. There's interviews, there's with subject matter experts. That's fun. I have shorts. I do several. I've been doing podcasts now for 10 years. So there's a long-standing podcast that I'm running called Strange World, which has been, in fact, we're doing episode 500 on Tuesday. We have Stephen Carpenter of the Deftones. He's going to be on there. Karen B., who was my co-host for a number of years. I think she was there through 200, 300, and 400. She's wonderful. My current co-hosts are Patricia Steer and DJ Curious. DJ's out of Los Angeles and Patricia is out of Houston, and they're wonderful. And what else do I have going on in my channel? The celebrities. We have celebrities that are involved in Flat Earth. Of course, Stephen Carpenter of the Deftones. It's really great. He's one of the few celebrities that's actually talked about Flat Earth. You know, he's an actual rock star. Eventually, will be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yet he wants to talk about everything that's conspiracy. He doesn't believe everything is out there. In fact, he won't even tour internationally anymore since the pandemic, because he's worried about conditions and, you know, what he may or may not be asked to do. And he doesn't want that awkward moment where it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, you can't get into fill in the country here because you haven't gotten whatever shot that is. What else? Got a couple books on Amazon. You can look that up. The Flat Earth Clues, which I did 10 years ago. You can just go into...
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Do you want to go another 20, 30 minutes?
We've been going for an hour and 48 minutes. I don't know how much time you have, but if it was up to me, I'd go another hour because I'm loving it.
Not another hour, but let's go until half past. How's that?
Half past? Is that in half an hour?
37 minutes.
All right, excellent. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So, where were we talking about? The short attention span of the general public,
right?
And how they just buy everything to where now the talking points can be put out there, and that can be extremely frustrating, especially when they do space stories, because again, people talk. It's like, oh yeah, when we do this Mars colony, I'm going. You want to talk about how that Mars colony is going to happen, or you know the when the news gets ahead of itself, it's like the dangers of space tourism on the moon. I'm going,
oh God,
what space tourism?
Yeah, exactly.
Even claimed to have set foot since 1972. That is so long ago.
But I mean, space. I mean, it's kind of like also the Kármán line. I mean, William Shatner had space tourism recently, right? So like that's what they call space tourism like now. And it's nothing. It's just go up there and go down. I mean, it's not going to another body. That's like not happening.
You want, again, if you all you're doing is can you simulate weightlessness? Yes, of course you can. You can do that. Well, again, I don't know if the zero-G planes are still in operation, but you could do those for cheap. You don't have to spend $250,000, $500,000 to go up and then float for a second. The planes can do it multiple times. We've all seen them.
Right, or you could like do it completely different and build an idea that would be a little bit more expensive. What I thought of is like have a very sophisticated maglev diving tunnel that's perfectly parabolic, in which you could have it like a chamber that's like magleving down at exact speeds. You could have like a perfectly vibrationless, still free-floating thing. I mean, it's going to be kind of an investment, but I mean, once you have that, like you can just like take people there and just have them give the experience, and they'd actually forget it wasn't real because it would just seem like such perfect floatingness.
Right.
No vibration, no sudden swings, nothing. Perfect.
Right now, the general public has access to two types of floating. You can go to a mall, which is basically a giant virtual...
Oh, yeah, the big fans, right?
Yeah, the big fan. And you're falling... And actually, I like that whole concept because...
It's like parachute jumping.
Right, only without the stomach issues. The reason why the planes were called the vomit comet is because when you're free falling, your stomach moves for all your organs move for a few seconds, and that is extremely
uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
And then if it like a bit of turbulence and it's like, ooh, that is terrible.
They basically say don't eat when you do these things. That's why it hasn't been very popular over the years. But
you could fix that with like a maglev tunnel thing, in which you no longer have all that shakiness, and it's just like, oh, we're good, like a super space mountain, basically. You could like rocket it up all upwards, and it's like, oh, we're lift off, the experience, and then it's like, oh, we're there, oh, we're gonna enter orbit, and then turn around, and we go, and it's like, oh, we're free for like 10 minutes, and then it's like, oh, you're out. We're back at where we started.
I've never been an amusement park guy. I get why some people really love it. I have inner ear issues when it comes to that. I don't even like very rocky fishing boats type thing. But I get it. But anyway, the general public, they're too easy to, well, now because of phones, because of this little thing, they become so pliable that you can basically make them do anything you want. Right. And it has been frustrating in some aspects, but at the same time, we're still waking up tons of people on a regular basis. They still, because of peer pressure, the most powerful thing really hasn't changed, and that's peer pressure. Friends and family and coworkers, to where they won't, your average person, it's like 90% of our community still won't come out of the closet. I talk to them all the time. And that's because, I don't want to be that guy at work. I don't want to be that guy at school. I don't want my family to leave me, and
well, you don't want the religious fanatic baller trolls hunting you down every day. Right? What I got, like those nutty people that are, by the way, in the chat trying to shit up the chat. Like, that's why, like, more than half the comments are deleted. Somebody is asking a question, by the way, a real good follower, Maxed Out Bear. Maxed Out Bear is asking, what does Mark think the ISS light in the sky that can be seen from Earth sometimes? Is it a drone, a natural luminary, other?
Do I think there's something up there? Yes, of course I do. There's something flying around up there. I've said this many times. Do I think there are people on it? No. God, no. No. And the reason why I say that isn't because you couldn't fit people up there. It's because the production value that we have watched for years now is horrible. It is absolutely freaking horrible. And I watch a lot of
the wires and the screen bleeding and the glass of water sitting there and all that.
The hair ridiculous. Alone. I mean, we caught that minute one, which is production value 101, which is, first off, forget about the hairspray aspect, which blows my mind, which is like, why do the women have to have their hair sprayed the Bride of Frankenstein? It would flow like you would be in a pool. However, you can't do that if you're trying to do it in a simulated, like a plane or anything like that, because then your hair would show the slightest movements, right? That's not the bigger problem there. The bigger problem there is, and you can ask any engineer, trolls, why do they have any hair at all?
Why didn't they just put it in a knot and just lock it off? Because you don't want hairs to get in your freaking electronics and all that.
You're trying to get production value. You're absolutely right, which is the first thing you would do is you put a hat on. The second thing you would do is you would tie it back. And the last thing you would do is leave it up, in a straight thing, to where it looked like Bride of Frankenstein. The bigger problem, though, is if you're in a zero-G environment, the air filtration system, and this is no different from a public pool. When you go to the public pools in the United States, you have to wear hairnets if you have long hair, because strands break off and then they float around and you run into it when you're swimming, and it's gross. It's really disgusting, right? Imagine that, but with a zero-G compressed section, right? Which is so my point is, and I know they do it for
you're going to breathe it in and all that crap.
Exactly. You wouldn't have hair at all. Everyone's head would be shaved. They'd still wear caps. In fact, you might even shave their eyebrows. No one would have facial hair ever. That's how you would do it. And yet they go the opposite way.
But that's a problem, though, because hair grows back kind of quickly.
Exactly.
So it's better to just have a thing that it's secure. Just give them all a silly helmet, right?
Right.
Like a Tron helmet, and then it's out of the way.
And the ISS, for me, the slam dunk event for me was the putting the hat away that wasn't there. For the CGI layer, which was brilliant. The CGI was working pretty good. But the fact that you grabbed a hat and put it away, but the hat was still there. If you watch that video, trolls, I'm sorry, you have to do this. If you watch that video and you think that if you don't have any explanation for what he did there, then you are lost. Right. You are in so much denial. It blows my mind. Look, I'm open-minded about a lot of things. But when I knew exactly what he was doing, which was he was supposed to grab the hat and put it over on the side, right? And if you missed the hat, you would have kept reaching for the hat. You wouldn't have kept the motion and put away nothing. That's me missing a fork in the dish, in the sink, and putting it in the drawer, but the fork's still in the sink. right?
Well, that
That's
could happen, but you'd have to be really, really distracted. Like, oh wait, but I mean, that's not. He's on camera. He's doing it.
He's
like
on camera, and the hat's still there. I mean, the CGI was actually pretty good, but after that, no, it was over. It was like, okay, and of course the silly little busy effect in the background with the guy on the cable.
Yeah, that one did it for me. And like, dude, phasing out of existence. What the hell, man? Why would you do that?
There must have been something going on there. And look, I've done enough editing in my time where it's like, okay, maybe there was an awkward moment where he, when you turn the corner and there wasn't enough room, remember, to go anywhere. And to where you just clunked into something, it's like, kind of like you're fading out a song. It's like, okay, well, the song's not going to end really correctly. We're just going to fade it out here. With video, you can't do it like that. Come on, you don't do that in the movies. Why would you do it here? No, the ISS is a joke from minute one. Do I think there's something flying up there? Sure. Why not? Do I know exactly?
Well, there's something visible up there. Is it flying? I mean, what is it? Like, can you actually get closer to it? Or is it just like the moon? It's just this light. Yeah, and it's just not a typical light, right? It's a weird thing.
Could it be a modified U2 with a bunch of extra lights? Possibly. I don't know. What I do know, though, is there are engineering things which we absolutely keep track of because this is what engineers do. Why is there no time lapse of the ISS being built in any capacity?
Right.
No time lapse of anything stitched together. And even if you could say after 20 years that it took us to do it, right, to build that thing out, why did the Chinese, which nobody talks about, the Chinese has an identical station that they built supposedly in 18 months, and they don't have a time lapse either.
Yep. But
I don't want to talk about it.
But but people still say that it's there, though.
What, the
assembly footage? They just say it, and then like, oh, show me, and then they can't, and then they get really angry.
I understand that you want it to be there. Yeah, and I understand.
I want it to be there.
Yeah, I know that you hate. Yeah, I know. I want it to be there too, so I can tear it apart. No different than the Tesla Roadster in space, which I remember exactly when that thing was sent to me. And I was like, and somebody, I go, what is this, a Photoshop? What? And I go, no, dude, that's a live link. I go, what do you mean live link? And I clicked on it, I was going, how is this car happening? What is happening? Why? Again, trolls in the chat room, tell me how. Remember, in a vacuum, everything is put under immense stress, especially pressurized systems. How did the tires not explode? How did not every liquid system in that car explode? The heating and cooling of those windows would have spiderwebbed. The front windshield would have been destroyed. Everything would have been wrecked on that thing. On that
come
car.
on. Rubber doesn't really get brittle when it cools super hard and with all the pressure on the inside and immediately rupture. That doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. Oh God! And that car was an absolute pristine. And nobody. And I'm sorry. The other thing
I think that your version of it that you use on your intros, the Morkstar, that's like way more realistic. I love that clip, by the way. What you made out of that was brilliant.
Hey, I'm not taking credit for that clip. That clip was sent to me by an anonymous person years ago.
Epic.
Right after it happened, they still have never taken credit for it.
That was great, man.
They turned the Tesla car into the Pulp Fiction scene with Bruce Willis, and then they segued straight into the Tesla, crashing into Sandra Bullock's space shuttle
from Gravity.
From Gravity.
Yeah.
And killing George Clooney.
Genius.
And, let's segue into that really quick, which is the space shuttle program, the American space shuttle program. It hasn't been around. We decommissioned it years ago. No, and we don't talk about it. People think, oh, we still have space shuttles. No, we do not. So why not? Why do we not have a space shuttle program or even a replacement for the space shuttle program?
Because people's just like when we see it now, we don't think, oh, we just think, what the hell is that thing? Like, how the hell is that going to do anything? It's just like a big metal brick. It's ridiculous.
Well, and the small radio controlled model makers. The thing flies. I always love the fact, and somebody,
but not very well though.
But it can fly.
Well
enough. Enough to where it's with an engine behind it. It can fly as a miniature. The question is, did it have more than glider? Not that it matters. Did it have more than glider capability? Probably. but why they discontinue it. And when you discontinue something in a government program, why did you not replace it with something else? Until years later, it's like, oh no, we're going to use the Dragon system from SpaceX. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, I could give you a reason, and it's like feeding it back to where we were talking about an hour ago, and that is, they might just we're not replacing it because we're secretly replacing it and we're not telling you about it.
Sure.
We got the UFO stuff now. You just can't know about it.
Sure.
Right?
I suppose.
Secret space program.
I suppose. But anyway, what else do you want to cover? We're running.
Well, I think we even kind of grafted all the ancient architecture in the story a little bit, because of how Hitler went around and tried to figure out the UFO tech, ancient antiqua tech, and all that, and just wow, look at history, right? History is turning out to be just completely nothing like we're being told anymore, and it's quite surreal a journey to figure it out. Giant mausoleums with millions of corpses in regions that are basically barren. What the hell is that? Right?
10 years ago, I said that we were not the first people to rent this apartment. Not by a long shot. And I have never, in fact, it's gotten worse for me since then. And you don't have to watch every season of Ancient Aliens to believe that. But I will mention a few notable things that they've covered, which is, look, our only unbroken history only goes back, let's say, 5,000 years, roughly. Unbroken. I mean, yes, there's some other things, to where we took credit for.
Well, is that even the history? I mean, I think technically it goes back maybe 400 years. And before that, it's we don't really know. Because it's all been completely replaced. It's there were another type of people before us. We don't even know if they were humans exactly like us. I'm suspecting they were slightly bigger, more healthy, smarter, more sensitive, and I call them protos. The ones that came before, slightly bigger, stronger, better, faster, smarter, right? Sure. And they might have had their protos before them, and it just keeps scaling up back in time. And I think that they were there. They built most of these massive structures that are mud flooded, left behind, and then they somehow disappeared. And maybe there's a record of how it happened, but we're not getting shared this story and trying to figure it out. And then the humans, as we are, the smaller ones, we were just kind of let out of the woods. We came out and it's hey, whoa, what happened? Whoa. Oh, look at all the building. Oh, okay, well, I guess we're just going to have to repurpose them now. And then later the Freemasons came in and we built that. Yeah, we built that, guys. We did it in 2 years. We're not going to tell you how. We're not going to show you the assembly, but we built it. Yeah.
I think every civilization has to more or less start out with as little influence, not complete isolation from the other civilizations, but create enough of their unique flavor compared to everybody else. But the other civilizations, the remnants, are still there, but of course they're left in mysterious states. The sunken cities off of Japan, the sunken cities off of India, the Bosnian pyramids, the real pyramids, Machu Picchu, Pumapunku.
There's too much. Those are just the mainstreams. There's too much to count. It's everywhere.
Yeah, there's tons of
in the middle of the taiga in Russia where literally nobody comes, there's giant ruins there. What?
Right.
What the hell?
Road, what's left of Atlantis and crap. It's stuff that we're never, ever going to figure. I mean, I have this funny feeling that when we're gone, one of the only things that remain of America will be Mount Rushmore. We'll just be these four guys up on this mountain, four faces, and people, a different culture, be wonder who they were.
Maybe the head of the Statue of Liberty somewhere at the ocean, exactly. In Planet of the Apes.
But we are not the first people to be here. We're not the first people to accomplish something. I think it's part of the cycle that I think we're here to learn, that we're here to get perspective, and the other cultures had to go through it as well, I would think. And people say, well, why wouldn't this be a one-off? It's why would you? It would be a one-off. It'd be a waste. Why would you make a world like this and not reuse different parts of it and terraform use the sandbox? You don't throw away the sandbox once the first kid leaves.
But it's a big question though. Where did they go? I mean, did they just all give up their life and just surrender did they like get into contact spiritually with something, and then like Tolkien's The Elves went to the Undying Lands, like another place or another dimension? Because I mean, there's like these millions of corpses in mausoleums, but those had to be put there. And then what happened to those people that basically put them there? They didn't just all just give up on life, did they?
Nah, I mean, I want to go with glass half full. I mean, yeah, of course you don't know, and I don't want to go down.
Where did they go?
Well, if I had to take a guess, I would go, because it's a big world, right? And we only live in a very, very small sliver of it. You know, our population, 90% of it lives from sea level to 1 mile up, you know, give or take 5,000 feet and whatever in meters. I would guess, I'd take a guess, I'd say either subterranean, either ground or water or both. Because we've seen all sorts of and heard stuff, you know, all sorts of subterranean things. We've of course all know the stories about UFOs flying out of the ocean on a regular basis. The Abyss wasn't just a movie, right? He didn't pull that out of nowhere.
Right. So you think that they might have migrated basically to another realm, which could be below us, or who knows, maybe above us, dude. Maybe above us.
Possibly, yes, absolutely. Why not? When I say that, you know, the hollow Earth theory. Is it possible? It's like, yeah, because technically, remember, our commercial planes cap out at 10 miles, spy planes, roughly 20 miles, give or take. Who's to say that we're not already in a subterranean area that we just can't tell because the ceiling's been projected?
Projected, or just this is the effect. Like, if the distance to the ceiling is too far, you just don't see it anymore. You get to see the blue sky because of the luminaries as they are.
There you go.
Right, maybe if you go up high enough, and then eventually, boom, you bump into a ceiling, and then who knows, you could get up there. And I mean, maybe you need this special anti-gravity UFO technology to be able to get there. The previous civilization might have theoretically figured it out, and then at some point decided, okay, we're just gonna go now. We're gonna leave it to the next. To the forest dwellers, like the hobbits. We're just going to leave you to figure it out. We're leaving behind the architecture, and we're going to the next realm, like the elves going to the Undying Lands. Right. I mean, it is a possibility.
I think there's rules to this place, and I think that each civilization only has so much authority. I think there's a hierarchy there, where I treat it kind of like school, where once your class graduates, you go off and do something else. You don't go back to school. But at the same time, you're also not allowed, I don't know what it is like in Europe, you're not allowed to go over here once you graduate from school, like high school. You're not allowed to go back on school grounds and mess with the freshmen, right? You know,
unless you got an invite officially.
Well, exactly, unless you have an invite. So that seems to be what happens here, where yes, we've all heard stories about, you know, various people that have been messed with, but we'll just call them UFOs. You know, that they're alone in the woods, they're alone in a little boat. You know, they're a group of soldiers lost in a mountain somewhere, and they get messed with. But those are pretty much isolated cases. You don't have a thing where a giant golden spaceship lands in the middle of Paris and starts, you know, taking selfies and signing autographs. It doesn't happen, because that's one of the old arguments from science. Like, why haven't they landed in the middle of New York and started talking to people? I'm going, I don't think they can. I think there are rules there, which is, again, let me bring up the Nuremberg event from 1561. Trolls, please look it up. It's a wiki entry. We didn't make it. You did. Which was 1561, Germany. They woke up on a beautiful April day, and two giant space aircraft carriers are just hammering on each other for a full hour over the city, not a cloud in the sky. And then a third faction shows up, a giant black craft, pulls up between the two of them. Those guys scatter. And then that black craft sits there for a little while, make sure they're gone, and then they take off. What is the hierarchy there, right? Which is, okay, first off, who are the two guys that were fighting, right? Or just scrapping? Could have been gang members for all we know. Who's the black craft? Were they the cops? Were they the UN? Whoever they were, those guys weren't messing with them. They knew they were in trouble. And then for me, I always chuckled, even though Ancient Aliens didn't talk about it, which was, it's like, what sort of response time is that? Right? I mean, I could fire a gun out this window right now. There's going to be cops here in under 10 minutes. I guarantee it, right? But those guys were doing a full-on engagement for an hour. and then following that group shows up. So I believe there are superintendents, for lack of a better word,
Right.
Administrators that kind of keep an eye on things.
Overseers. I mean, yeah. If
well,
they've migrated to another place, then there's gonna be a hierarchy and rules there.
Exactly.
So
and one of those rules is whoever's on the surface, the land dwellers, as you call them, it's like, yeah, you can, yeah, fine. If those guys are drunk in a fishing boat, yeah, you can mess with them. Fine. That's fine. But, you're on notice.
Just don't go too far. Don't create an international incident.
Right. You can't steal a town. Right? You can't grab an aircraft carrier. You can't do all these other things you want to do because we want them to develop naturally. I believe that part of our world is they want to see, again, just a theory.
Prime directive.
They want to see death. Prime directive is no joke.
No, I know. It's very serious. That idea is like, not dumb.
And it wasn't lost on me in the modern Star Trek thing because what might happen, which was once the tribal people saw that spaceship leaving, they took their religion and they threw it on the ground.
Yep.
And they're like, we have a new religion, those guys. And which is why I argue, I go, that's the biggest reason. It's like if a giant golden spaceship showed up, oh, sure, there'd be the nerds out there. They'd be analyzing everything. It's like, oh, wow, blue people, right? But there'd be a whole nother group, which would be like, we must build a church to the blue people. Yeah. And
they go nuts and then like chaos.
So I think we're supposed to act naturally until the big disclosure moment. So if you think America is going to be revealing anything about this, not on their own, they won't. If the big disclosure...
No, we're not ready yet. It doesn't feel like it's there yet.
No.
That's not what this moment is. This is like a phoenix moment. That's even what I called it last year. It's like this. There's a phoenix moment. The darkness has been crouching on, and it's like helms deep. And like, oh my God, we're all gonna die, but let us ride out together. And then like, oh shit, last second, Gandalf on top of the hill, and it's thank God. I mean, that's what this all feels like. This last month, like that's what this is. It's like, oh my God, we made it after all.
Yeah, I'm hoping that too. There's two types of endings in storytelling. There's the tragic award winners, right? The movies end in tragedy. It's like, well, it's really bitter, but it's a good story. Or you get the popcorn happy ending, which is like, hooray! And most people they want the popcorn ending. They want the happy stuff. I'm rooting for it. I really am, because this particular civilization's gone through quite a bit. Very few years of peace anywhere. It's again the fact that the whole Star Trek mantra was, the whole world was at peace. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I could imagine that would be the case if it was completely tyrannical, because I mean, the emperor would definitely bring peace.
Yeah,
right. Or you blow it up.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I'm a believer in. There's a reason why I think that I also believe in multiple timelines, which is I think that almost every Germany timeline ended badly. Where technically they brought peace in the end, but I don't think the end justified the means. In their case, because how full well that would have ended. It would have, there would have been huge chunks of. I don't know though, because I don't even know exactly. Like, we're now getting a story about. This is totally different subject, but I mean, it just everything they told us about Nazi Germany, it just doesn't seem to be what it really was. And there was some dark shit happening, but I mean, some dark shit was being done to them too, and huge betrayals, and like it became really corrupted and dark, and like Anakin, but that's not how it was, right? Well, it is true that the winners paint history, and yes, the flip side of this, and I don't want to drag it out because we ran out of time, but I want to mention this, which is, yes, it's true that. Think about the flip side, and that was actually discussed in several alternative history books, which is, the American heroes, Eisenhower, Patton, MacArthur, those guys, they would have been war criminals if they lost. Yeah. And they would have been painted as these evil things. We think of, Himmler and Rommel and all those guys, that the German things. It's like, yeah, they're painted in that dark light because, well, they lost. Did their overarching goal was to reorder the world? Yes. Do I think they would have done anything to that capacity? Yes. Do I have a right to judge some of it? No, not really, because I wasn't there.
But one thing that I think is that there's this mythos. It's what I'm calling it. It's my personal opinion. I'm not a historian or anything, and I'm not swaying for any kind of ideology, but I think that the whole racism and superior race thing of only Germans, I think it's total bullshit. Complete and utter nonsense. I don't think that was like that at all. I mean, Hitler literally had Negro black people sitting right next to him as he's doing his speeches. It's just not true. He wasn't like that. He was like, no, every group, black, all of it, we want the good ones out. We want every race to just be better people. And he hated like the degenerates and the people that were just criminals, like, and gross and hateful. Like, that's what he was after. He wasn't trying to create a superior race. I think that the whole superior race came out of like the occult stuff, in which that was kind of relevant to find the ancient ones, the superior, not you create human superiority. No, follow up on the ancient ones, and not through killing all the ones that are not looking like you, but by lifting everybody up and making it better. And then I think that is what he actually tried to do, and he wasn't trying to just exterminate all the race. I think that's actually imposed upon by their notorious opponent, who seems to be very much acting in line with exactly that thus far.
It would be curious if I ever get my time machine fixed. One of the first things I would do is I would go back and I would see the timeline where the Vril Society had, ran its course. And it's like, okay, if they kept moving up in power, what would they have done in the long run? I'm kind of curious what they would have done, because they were an interesting group.
Fascinating group. Very fascinating. Sure.
So anyway, how do you want to wrap this up? Do you want any?
Well, I think dude, this has been like an absolute blast. This is like one of my all-time favorites back and forth I've done in my last 10 years. I'm loving it. And I think we pretty much treated every subject that was on the agenda, right? I mean, we could dig into more details about like, hey, what do you think of the Library of Congress? Was that built by that guy in 2 years, right? Or was it always there and just dug out? But I think we pretty much went through all of it. So
let me ask you really quick. You're in what country again?
Netherlands. Small country.
We're doing a conference in July in Italy.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
Thanks for letting me. I'm not going out of the country, maybe ever.
Oh no.
But
we're doing. I'm actually going to be speaking. I'm going to be the keynote speaker at the conference in Italy. So that'll be kind of fun. Initially, Eric was invited to go.
Eric Dubé?
Yes, he was.
Cool.
And but once he heard I was going, because he doesn't like me very much, he's not going.
He doesn't like a lot of people.
I know.
Everybody's a shill. Everybody's a shill.
Everybody's a shill, but him.
It's never changed, right?
No, he has never changed. And I finally reached out after 10 years. It's like, dude, come on. Are we still going to keep doing this? Apparently.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. That's fine.
I mean, he's barely even adapted like his narrative. Like, he's still repeating the same stuff that he did like 10 years ago, despite everything that's been figured out. So, but I mean, he does what he does, and we do what we do. And if he chooses not to change, then I think there's a lot of fans that like that about that he doesn't change. And there's people that are like, this is ridiculous. We want updates. And so, hey, That's why we're here, right?
I get it. He has his role to play, and that's fine.
Exactly.
You know, everybody does. Well, thank you so much. I've had a great time. I told everybody while you were on break where to find me. But again, if anyone's curious, just type into Google Flat Earth Mark. Follow the trail. You'll get there.
Right, on YouTube and everywhere else. Although you're not managing the other accounts.
And if you find other people that have content, you know, don't just look at my stuff. There's all sorts of great people making fun stuff. Doing meetups whenever we can. We have a conference in America. I believe it's going to be in September. And other than that, we just keep moving along and, you know, trying to open minds wherever I can.
Right. Yeah. Somebody in the chat's asking, where in Italy is the conference thing?
It's going to be in Venice. So
right.
the promo is going to be on my channel, and I was contacted by a guy out there, and he said, "Yeah, come out." So the Strange World crew is going to be there, and I think Conspiracy Music Guru is going to go, and we'll see. Oh, Martin Leakey. Martin Leakey's going to go.
Oh yeah, Martin Leakey too. Cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun thing.
Right. Yeah. Good to hear.
Yeah.
And like, when are you guys going to come back to the Netherlands, man?
Yeah.
I'm a veteran now, so I can like stand on that stage now. I'm going to do it. If you're going to come back to the Netherlands, I'm going to join and I'm going to do it.
I think we will, because you know, beforehand, again, we were doing amazing things, but it was the pandemic that slowed everything down.
Yeah.
This will be, if everything goes well, this will be my first international trip since it started in 2020. 5 years.
Cool.
Roughly.
Yeah, I did a little mini Dutch conference in September last year, but it was all Dutch. So I did it in Dutch, but that went great. Like got an audience like 150 people, and they were all clapping. So
awesome.
It was pretty cool. And but yeah, it went great, and I'd love to do it again. So, and this time it's not like, oh, I'm too nervous. Like I know what I'm gonna do. You let me on that stage, and you have to pull me off again, because like after an hour, it's like, yeah, but it's more. Nice. I want to keep going. Nice. Right?
Well, cool.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, if anything else comes up, let me know. Again, pleasure. If anyone wants to reach me, I'm easy to find. And, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks again so much for being here, Mark. Second time to a Night Owl show number 15. 2015 on the 15th. Huh?
Very nice.
Yes, 3 times 15.
Very nice.
Right, so yeah, it was great. I'm so glad you said yes on such a short notice. I mean, I literally asked, like, 3 days ago?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So maybe do this again sometime, maybe not super soon, but I'm sure we're going to do this again. And also, yeah, give my regards to Patricia. She's not seeming to like answer my emails, but because I might want to try something like this with her. If she's open for it, maybe you could tell her.
I will tell her, I swear.
All right. So yeah, give her my regards and everybody else out there. And yeah, see you next time. Thanks so much for being here, man. All right. Excellent.
Are we off?
See you next time, Mark.
All right. Thanks, man. Gotta run.
And I'm back on camera. Just let me... This time, it's there. No, not... Yeah, I'm back. Wow. I mean, that was absolutely the best Night Owl show that I have ever done. And I mean, the other times were pretty good, but God, can't believe it's been 2.5 hours straight, and it's just like, wow. We talked about everything I wanted to talk about. It was like, what a rush. I had a little bit of bonus coffee, like half a bonus coffee. And I mean, that definitely got me going. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, I'm still just like, wow, that was just great. And yeah, if you're coming in late, definitely check it out from the beginning. I'm gonna watch this back from the beginning. It's like one of my best back and forths I had since 10 years, like since I started doing this. Definitely the longest. And despite the overt abundance of troll horse shit from the same guy spamming over and over again, it did not decrease anything, did not ruin anything, and wasn't even seen. So it's like, yeah, all your trolling, it doesn't work. Doesn't work, dude. There's no point. It's been great, and I'm glad to see, a bunch of guys here now. Sergeant speaking outside of his comfort zone? I don't think so. I mean, Mark seemed very comfortable, and I mean, he does like he's not scared to delve into controversial subjects or risky subjects. He's very well aware of what you can legally say and what you can't. And I think this was excellent. This show actually deserves to have a very long title to summarize the subjects, but for now, I'm just gonna leave it like the Flat Earth Night Owl 15 with Mark Sargent. Right? On the 15th of February in 2000 on the 15th of February, Night Owl number 15 in 2025. So, multiple 15s. Great show. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I did enormously. And I need some time to recover from it because I'm like just ecstatic. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad I did this. He flinched at the Nazi stuff? No, I don't think so. I mean, it's not unreasonable to say the things that I did. I didn't get into, like, I didn't get really dark or, like, really, I don't know, anti-Semitic. I did not, right? To question the validity of history in the big lines is completely reasonable. So, right? And it is very interesting what had happened with them and, like, the occult research that Hitler did. I mean, it's all very relevant, especially to UFO technology, which was part of the subject. So it's all been relevant, and I think it was just great. Like this is a show that you can share like with pretty much anyone. And I hope that a lot of you guys have enjoyed it. And see, like 3 Rogans up. Don't know why it's only 3, but I mean it'll gather, I guess. Right. But I am gonna round out the show and get some dinner, because I had like sort of dinner, but not really, and I can really use a good meal after doing a total of 5-hour show today. Not at all, the emotes anyway. I don't want to really get into that data side down, right? I'll talk about it on the early bird show, no issues. Like, I'm not gonna be shy. I don't care what people do about it. Like, I'm not saying anything illegal. I know my rights. I have my rights to my opinions. And if I say this is just not real, then that's what I'm saying. Right? Doesn't make me a hater, doesn't make me anti anything. Right. So yeah, again, hope everybody enjoyed this show. And don't forget to Rogans it up if you did. And I don't know, show it with somebody that you think might be very interested in this conversation. Because this was a pretty advanced conversation. Like, these are, like, we were really 2 veteran flat earthers, researchers and all that. just going through everything. And it was great. Absolutely a blast to do. And I hope you all enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm gonna call it for today. Round it out. And yeah, hope to see you again tomorrow with Flat Earth Early Bird number, what is it? The 2206 or something? Was it 8? Yeah. If anybody would like to support me for my efforts, I mean, I think that today's show is definitely worth it, right? I can definitely use the financial support through the PayPal, Patreon there, the Give, Send, Go. PayPal would definitely be preferred because I get that quickly. I could use it literally for food. I mean, yeah, think of it what you will, but I like food. I like looking forward to being able to eat. So if anybody wants to donate like $5 or $10 or something, please do so. I will be very thankful. I'll give you a shout out if you want, or not a shout out if you want to stay anonymous. Either way, let me know. You can leave a comment alongside like PayPal's. So any support will be greatly appreciated, and I really need it literally for food for like tomorrow. Right. So everybody have a great rest of the day or evening or night, wherever you are. See you guys tomorrow with Flat Earth Early Bird number 2206 on a Sunday, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time. And yeah, have a great night. Until the next video, keep it.
I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past and the pettiness. A reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious.